think Tevez going to Juventus, what a coup that was for me. I mean,
on a head-to-head battle, Atletico Madrid can do more damage to Barcelona than the other way around.
Either he's really blind or he's fixing the match. I can't see it any other way.
it is an upset. You would expect Man United to go and win there.
Over $1 billion was paid in transfer fees between the clubs in Europe.
And Bayern Munich are going to be favourites for me against anybody at home in the world. The 03-04 season, actually, Olympiacos have won 8 of the last 10 domestic league campaigns, so there is only really one team in Greece, which we kind of already knew.
Because things have been pretty much decided, just as a quick glance before we go through the table, PSG is going to lock up this thing with one more point. Monaco's solidly in second place. Lille is going to be in that Champions League qualifier position, 7 points ahead of Saint Etienne. If you're a serious talent, you're going back and you're playing for Santos. You're going back to play for, like in Argentina, for River Plate or Boca Juniors, or you're going to Europe.
He looked like the Ryan Giggs of old. He was more creative than any player on the pitch. He made Mata look stupid. He made Rooney look silly.
I am your host, Joe Usello. My co-host, Rob Rojas. My trusted co-host, Ben the Machine. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 53 of Low Limit Football on Low Limit Poker Radio. I'm your host, Joe Usello, and playing slightly injured tonight, but I know my co-hosts are going to rescue me this evening. First off, Ben the Machine. Ben, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, actually. Off the back of another decent Blackburn result as well, so we'll get to that later. I know everyone doesn't want to hear about it. But yeah, we've got 3 more great guests and another great show, so yeah, sit back and enjoy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Rob, what's going on, man?
I'm doing great.
Good.
It's going to be a good show tonight.
I'm excited. I was looking at the guest list just a little while before we came on the show, or came on the air, and I noticed that the 3 guests that we have lined up for tonight are 3 guests that we had previously either had booked to come on the show, had agreed to come on the show, and then for some reason or another, we weren't able to get them, or technical malfunctions. There were all sorts of different reasons, and it's just amazing that tonight all 3 of them are coming on. One of them by pre-recorded interview, and the other 2 are coming on live with our first one in 30 minutes. I'm excited, because they're both big names, or all 3 of them are big names in the football world. First one up is a writer for Gianluca DiMarzio, David Amoyal, who has been on Sirius XM. I believe he's been on beIN Sport. He's been all over the place to talk about Serie A. This guy is a big deal to me, at least, in terms of Serie A coverage. So I'm really, really excited to have him on. The next guest we're going to have is Susie Schaarf, who covers the Bundesliga. She writes for Bayern Central. And another one that is really top-notch in terms of her coverage of Bayern Munich. And last but not least, in the pre-recorded interview, we're going to have Jason Pettigrove, who writes for Bleacher Report and covers Blaugrana, covers Barcelona. So we asked him some great questions, and we had a great interview with him before the weekend started, and we're going to end up playing that one again. So, Ben, anything you want to add to the list for tonight?
No, not really. I think it's going to be a packed show. Like you said, we've got 2 live guests, 1 pre-recorded. Obviously, we're going through all the leagues. We're going to touch Champions League, Europa League, Copa Sudamerica, MLS. If we get a chance, I'm sure we'll touch Blackburn as well. There's lots to talk about, and it's going to be a good show.
Yeah, Rob, how about you? Anything else you want to add on to the list?
Yeah, no, I'm going to agree with Ben here and say that it's going to be a good show with all these 2 high-profile guests.
Yep, no, I agree. So, you know what, Rob, I'm going to keep it at you for a second, because let's kick it off with the Copa Sudamerica. And I want to preface that by saying that we had 2 very exciting playoff atmosphere and matches this past week, with the Copa Sudamerica semifinals and the MLS technically semifinals with the Eastern and Western Conference Championships. So we're gonna cover both of them now before we get David on the air and before we hit our regular league coverage. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened in South America this week?
Yes, we shall. In the first match of the second leg of the Copa Sudamerica, you had São Paulo hosting Atlético Nacional Colombia. Atlético Nacional winning the first leg 1-0 in Colombia. São Paulo winning 1-0 in Brazil, courtesy of a goal from Ganso, Paulo Henrique Ganso, the player from Santos that played for some while and on the Brazilian national team. He scored the goal to put the aggregate total score level at 1, which then led to penalties. I think you were talking about this, Joe. You were able to see the penalties shootout?
Yes, I did get a chance to watch the penalty shootout, which was pretty exciting. In fact, if I remember right, I think I said Nacional just because I didn't get a chance to watch the match. And if I remember correctly, Nacional made all of their penalties where I can't remember the other team now, but they missed all of theirs. Or
São Paulo. They ended up winning 4-1, courtesy of all the goals made by Atlético Nacional and a missed shot from Alan Kardec. And for me, I don't think you remember this. It reminded me of when Terry missed his penalty in the 2008 Champions League final.
Mm-hmm.
He just ran up for the ball and just slipped, and the ball just went straight out.
Yeah, and that I felt terrible when I saw that because you could see the footing just go right out from under him. It was pretty sad, and no fault of his for missing that penalty, but it's just unlucky,
Yeah, it was. Rogerio Ceni making the penalty for them as the lone goal, who initially said that he was supposed to retire after that tournament, but the following day he ended up signing a contract extension and hopes to play in the Copa Libertadores the following year to hopefully end his career with a title. In the other match that happened on Thanksgiving Day, River Plate took on Boca Juniors in the Monumental. 3rd minute of the match, Boca Juniors got a penalty, courtesy of a challenge made by one of the River defenders. Gigliotti stepped up for the penalty, and the goalkeeper, Barrow Neville, saved it.
Mm-hmm.
12 minutes later, Leandro Pisculici scored the goal to make it 1-0 River, and remained the whole match 1-0 on aggregate. For me, to be honest, I thought I would have seen more of that match. A 1-0 victory after leading after some 75 minutes. It's something especially for this match in certainty. It's not really one of those derbies that you're going to probably remember for a long time, but
yeah, in honesty, I would have expected more goals out of the Boca Junior River Plate matchup in general. To end 1-0 on aggregate, I thought, both games were reasonably well. The first game wasn't quite as exciting as the second, but I would have expected more goals out of that matchup. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Considering it's such a high level derby, and you would expect a lot of goals to make it more interesting and intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how it goes. So the finals is set. The first match will be on Wednesday. Atlético Nacional will take on River Plate in Colombia in the first leg. And the following week, on the 10th, River Plate will be playing Atlético Nacional in the second leg of the final in Buenos Aires.
And if you wanted to make a prediction right now, who would you take?
As much as for me personally, I support Boca Juniors as a fan of Argentina. So as much as I don't want River Plate to win this tournament, I really want Atlético Nacional to win it. But to be fair, if the odds are in favor, River Plate do seem like the favorites for this one. But I would really like to see Atlético Nacional be able to pull this through, especially if they can get a result in Argentina at the Monumental, Argentina's home stadium, and River Plate's home stadium, in front of some 80,000 fans in that stadium.
I feel like, watching the two teams celebrate, or watching River celebrate the end of that match, it almost felt like they had won what they came to win when they won that match. I've got to think Nacional is probably mentally more focused and ready to play that finals than River is. I think River, deep down inside, they felt like they won their final already. That's just my impression.
Well, they have been competing. I think this probably will play in factor in the league, for that matter. They I don't know, this is probably off schedule, but they were able to lose a very important match, their first match of the season, to Racing Club, and therefore the gap for the Argentine league is as close as ever. So it's a 3-way tie currently with River, Racing, and Lanús, with two more match days to determine who could be the champion Argentina. So I feel like either River Plate will be focusing more on the league or Copa Sudamerica final. What do you think? Do you believe that they should focus more on the league or this final?
You know, and the thing is that if I remember correctly, the league only has a few more matches to go. It's
2 more.
Yeah, it's a tough spot because, you know, you've got a trophy right in front of you with 2 matches to play. I mean, you've got a trophy in front of you with 3 matches to play as well. This goes back to the old, because we've equated this Copa Sudamerica to the Europa League title in Europe.
Yep.
You know, how do they feel? Do they feel like they want to win the Europa? Do they see it as a lesser accomplishment than winning the first division? If they see it as that way, then yeah, they have to focus on the first division.
Well, especially since they are the defending champions as well.
Right. So they'll get into the Libertadores, you know, with the results. So, I mean, I guess it really depends on how they see it. Personally, you know, when you can win a regional title like that, for me, I think you should go for it. I think you should be going for the Copa Sudamerica and moving forward. This is the one thing, you know, going back to Italian teams, I just don't get why they don't work hard enough to win that Europa League title. We talk about Juventus last year. Juventus is in the Final Four. The final's in their home stadium. They should have thrown the kitchen sink at Benfica. Now, that Benfica side was good, but you can't tell me that Benfica side was a better team than the Juventus side. And they just really never focused in on it. So I guess it depends on how the Copa Sudamerica is viewed amongst the different clubs in South America. Then that'll kind of make a difference as to which way they go.
Yeah, I agree. Ben, what do you think?
I think it's close, really. I mean, like you said, I think a lot of teams do take on the league as priority, just because most of the time it's what's on the forefront of most people's tongues. But you know, the Copa Sudamerica is huge in South America. So, and you know, as any football team, your aim should be to win everything you play in. So I don't think that they're going to have too much of a view on the league. I mean, obviously they want to win the league as well, but I do think that I did say I'd tell everyone what the odds are. I mean, River Plate are favourites. They're 6-4 on to win. I think they probably will win, but I think obviously, like Rob said, it makes it a lot closer if they're looking at the league, and it's a 3-way tie with 3 games to go. But I think you'll see River Plate squeeze it, and I also think that they're going to squeeze the title as well. But it's going to be close, and it's definitely something to keep your eyes on.
Now, what are the odds for River Plate winning the league?
I can find out for you. It's
right.
Just have to give me a couple of seconds. I'll have a look.
All right, while you're at it, I'll mention the MLS Cup playoffs.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Do you want to cover them, or you want me to cover them?
Yeah, I guess I'll cover it, and then I'll let you decide what you want to talk about. All right, in the second leg of the Eastern Conference Finals, the New England Revolution drawing the New York Red Bulls in Massachusetts because of the 2-1 win for the New England Revolution at home. In New Jersey. New England Revolution won 4-3 on aggregate. And for me, obviously, Joe, we're both New York Red Bull fans. I think we all expected that maybe after that Cahill goal, or somewhat, we were thinking, all right, I think we could probably pull something through, hopefully get into extra time or penalties. But courtesy of 2 goals from Charlie Davis, and Thierry Henry finished his career at the New York Red Bulls. I
agree. Cahill, as nice as that goal was that he scored, he did miss a complete sitter as well in the match. And again, for me, he comes unheralded, but Peggy Leandula had another great match this time around. The guy's a star that no one's really talking about. Now, I mean, everyone was really focused on Thierry Henry in this one. What's going to happen to Thierry Henry? Is he coming back? He held, I don't know if you saw the vines from, online about his brief press conference, where he called all the reporters around his locker, and the reporters all thought they were coming and getting something magical. He was going to announce his retirement or something, and he just looks up and says, "Congratulations, New England," and walks out the door. And I thought that was, I thought that was awesome. That everyone thought they were going to get the breaking news, and all of a sudden, nothing happened. So, and even up to this point, we still don't have a determination as to whether he's coming back or not. He hasn't truly made a decision, although the speculation is the way his teammates have come out. They've all come out and prefaced their comments with, if he is retiring, blah, blah, blah. So, I think in the end, I think Thierry Henry is retiring. unfortunately, it's going to be sad to see him go. But he played incredibly well in this match. I thought again, Leandula played well, even though Cahill missed that sitter. I thought he was a great replacement for Bradley Wright Phillips. The team played well, but you have to take your hat off to this New England side. I mean, they played really, really well. They were outpossessed by New York. This was a battle of two teams that wanted it, in my opinion. Do you know what I mean? It's just And unfortunately, they gave up the extra goal in New York the previous week, which is what did them in. So. Ben's got the odds for the MLS final as well. So why don't you give us the second leg of LA Seattle?
Yes, I will. LA Galaxy winning the first leg 1-0 in LA and 2-1 for the Seattle Sounders, making it 2-2 on aggregate. But Los Angeles won on away goal courtesy of Jorginho. And for me, this was quite the sentimental feeling, especially for Landon Donovan. He gets one more chance this Sunday against the New England Revolution at home, and after that, he's hanging up his boots forever. Yeah, so it would be really sentimental for him to win that final MLS Cup.
On this one, in my medicated stupor last night, as I fought the medication to stay awake and watch, I did tweet, "Where was this Seattle team last week?" This Seattle team last night played on fire. They really, really did. They came out. They took the match to the LA Galaxy and really just gave up an unfortunate goal there in the 53rd minute by Juninho. They took advantage of two Omar Gonzalez mistakes in the back, one for Brad Evans to score and the other for Clint Dempsey to score early on in the match. They took the 2-goal lead into the locker room at halftime. They outpossessed LA, where the week before they were clearly outmatched the week before. But here is something that a lot of MLS followers have been following that they've been griping about, and that is the institution of the away goals rule. And here you go. This match ended 2-2 on aggregate, but because of the away goals, with the one away goal that LA scored, they advanced. So it's but. I personally, as much as everyone was rooting for Landon Donovan to kind of win that last championship, I was kind of rooting for Seattle because I wanted to see them pull off the American treble, where they won the Supporters Shield, they won the U.S. Cup, the Open Cup, and then they would have won the MLS Cup. I would have really liked to have seen them pull off the treble like that, but obviously wasn't meant to be. So. Like I was saying, Ben's got the odds in chat there, Rob, if you want to talk about them.
Yes, it's here. LA is 6-4 on to win the. Is that for the MLS Cup final?
Yeah. Yes, it's for the MLS Cup. 6-4 on. So obviously, slight favourites, but it's going to be a close game. I think that and the Copa Sudamerica final, they're both going to be good games to watch, and whether you follow the leagues normally or not, you should definitely watch those games, and I'm going to do my best to watch the MLS Cup final, even with the time difference.
That matchup, and
I think that match is going to be early.
It's December 7th. I want to get the time here as I'm calling it up on my screen, but I do know it is a December 7th. It is going to be this.
It's a Sunday game.
Yes, it's on 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So
so that is going to be 3:00 our time in
8:00 their time,
and Ben 8:00 for you. So
okay, so there's no excuses now. Yeah. No, I mean it's good. I must admit, this has been the first season that I've actually had a chance to kind of follow along with the MLS, and it's been enjoyable. It's fun, and obviously a league that's there's more talent coming in every single year, and I think it's being taken more seriously on the world stage as well.
Yeah, I think the MLS, if they're anything to be upset about or disappointed about, is the fact that they didn't get Thierry Henry in this final. I think MLS was truly deep down inside hoping for that New York-LA final where they pull the two major markets in. They've got two stars that are possibly, two world football stars that are possibly going out in their last matches, and they're both going to play against each other for a championship. I think deep down inside, that's what they were hoping for. This is not a bad option though, with the rise of Lee Wen and Jermaine Jones coming back over from Germany, actually via Besiktas. I think they're happy that they're going to get Jermaine Jones. He's a recognized American face. Lee Wen is kind of the talk of the town. So I think they still got what they're looking for, but I think deep down inside they would have rathered the New York-LA matchup. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree.
Ben, how about you?
Yeah, me too.
I think also as well. I think if he does win this one, Landon Donovan rightly deserves it. He'll get 4 MLS Cups. Well, actually, this will be his 6th MLS Cup if he wins it, and will be the most by any player in MLS. He can retire as the United States all-time goal scorer, all-time assist leaders, all-time in MLS, and all-time career playoff goals.
Yeah.
So look at the resume that the man can get.
Yeah, but let me ask you this.
Sunday.
Let me ask you this, because I know we've got a few more minutes before David's going to be ready for us. Let me ask you this: does he need to add this championship to his resume?
If he rightly deserves it and wants to and have that record of being the player with the most MLS Cup titles, then yeah, rightly deserved.
I don't disagree that he deserves it. I think he deserves it. I certainly think he deserves it, but I don't think he necessarily needs it to write his legacy or write the last chapter of his legacy. He is going to go down as the greatest American footballer of all time. I mean, there's no denying this. So I don't necessarily think he needs it. I just think, it's a nice little feather to add in the cap, I'd say.
Yep, I agree. But yeah, it would be rightly good either way, win or lose.
Oh yeah,
great career for the man.
Absolutely, and I think it's going to be a great final too, because this New England side is really playing full steam ahead. They haven't, even when you look at the results this weekend, they didn't lose a match. Okay, they didn't lose a match in the playoffs. They won both matches against Columbus, and then they won in New York, and then they drew at home in a result that, once they scored, I think the second goal, it was completely uphill for New York to get there. They didn't really need to win this, but they haven't been beaten in the playoffs yet. Whereas LA has been beaten. They've been beaten Sunday. So, Ben, you posted the 6-4 on LA in the chat there, that LA's the favorite to win MLS Cup. I've got to say that maybe New England's not a bad bet. It doesn't look like they can be beaten.
Oh yeah, I don't think anyone thinks this game's going to be, one-sided at all. I firmly believe that this match will probably be settled by a goal. I don't see it being too far apart at all, and this is one of the reasons why I encourage people to tune in, because it's going to be a good game either way, and whatever the results go.
Certainly. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, we're gonna need to make predictions, because that match is Sunday. So, Ben, I'm going to start with you. Do you want to throw a number on the MLS Cup final? Give me a result, and we'll compare them next week.
Yeah, I'm going to take LA Galaxy 2-1.
Okay. And Rob, how about you?
2-1 LA.
All right. So I'll be I'll be the contrarian then. I'm going to go against Destiny, and I'm going to say it's going to be New England. I'll go New England 2-1. All right.
No fifth title for Landon Donovan then.
No fifth title for Landon Donovan. I'll be that guy. I don't mind doing that. But in the end, they're getting Burnbury's playing really, really well for them. Again, Lee Wen, and Jermaine Jones just seems to turn up whenever you need him to. So, and SirBob's got one LA Galaxy, so we should add that in there. So, when do you guys talk about the best striker in the world, Sergio Aguero?
He's going to get a mention later on in the show.
Gentlemen, I just want to mention to you guys that statement did not come from SirBob.
I know. Do you know what? Actually, when I was preparing for the show today, obviously I was doing a bit on the Man City segment. It's not even the game of the week. It was actually when we talk about the Champions League today. And when we get onto it, we'll know that we're not against Aguero at all. He's world class striker, and he gets some praise on the show today. Put it that way.
He has certainly had himself a week, that's for sure. Between Champions League, between that and the league play itself, he's had himself an adventure this week. I would say, don't you guys think?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, he's definitely proving that he's definitely someone to be not to be messed with. And I was actually talking to to one of my friends actually the other day about Sergio Aguero, and we were talking about who we thought was the best striker in the Premier League. And I know a week in, week out, Bob's been saying Aguero is the best striker in the Premier League. And I think really it would take quite a brave man at this moment in time to say he's not. So yeah, I mean, put it this way: if Man City win the Premier League, it's going to be because of Sergio Aguero.
Yeah, and I think and I think that's something we should probably talk about when we cover England. So I'm just going to hit a button here real quick, and just I want to let you guys know that joining us now on Low Limit Football is David Amoyal from Gianluca DiMarzio. David, Joe Usello talking. How are you tonight?
Great to be on. Thanks for having me tonight.
I'm really, really excited to have you. First, I'm going to introduce you to my co-host first, all the way in England, is Ben the Machine. Ben, say hi to David.
Hi, David. Nice to have you on the show.
Hey, Ben. Thanks for having me.
And our other co-host, all the way from Connecticut, which is right around the corner from you, I know that, is Rob Rojas.
Hi, David. It's nice to meet you.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks again for having me on your show.
And again, thanks again for joining us. First thing I'm going to start us off with is the result from earlier today. Give me your thoughts. I know you said that you kind of jinxed Mihailovic right at the end of the match there. Give us your thoughts on the Sampdoria-Napoli match today.
Well, I expected it to be a draw going into the match. The stadium in Genova, Marassi, has been a very tough place to play for any team that goes, whether they're facing Genoa or Sampdoria. Napoli, has a lot of injuries. They've been without Insigne. Mertens isn't 100%. So they kind of had a little bit of a skeleton crew. They had a Gulam, who's usually a left back, playing as a left winger. Sampdoria, on the other hand, they benched Gabbiadini, who's kind of their signature striker. He also has been rumored to potentially join Napoli. I don't know if they were playing coy and didn't want them to scout him in person. So the match, when I looked at the lineups, it looked like a draw. I thought Sampdoria played pretty well for most of the match. Napoli did better in the second half. So all in all, I think it's a fair result. I'm not sure it really helps too much either team. It certainly helps out the teams that are trying to catch up to them for third place.
Yeah. Now, and they didn't exactly give Gabbiadini a lot of time today. They brought him on pretty late in the match. He was the last sub that Samp made. So
yeah.
Kind of hiding the goods, I guess, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah. I guess so, too. I think the weather, maybe they were concerned that he could get injured. There was a lot of rain throughout the day, and they tried to use a more tactical approach. So, yeah, they were banking more on Okaka winning the game for them.
What are your thoughts on this Sampdoria side? Just going back, they've only recently lost their first match. It was 5 weeks ago to Inter 1-0. But this is a team that, for me, we didn't kind of see them coming this strong to open the season. Now, granted, everyone's a little bit behind Roma and Juventus at this point, but yeah. Samp is really in the middle of challenging for this last Champions League playoff spot. Where did this come from?
I agree with your analysis. I think, we saw Sampdoria last year do very well once Mihailovic replaced Delio Rossi as coach. He kind of took off with the team. In the summer, they sold their best defender, Mustafi, who's playing in La Liga now. Mm-hmm. And they replaced him with Silvestre, who was kind of an afterthought for both Milan and Inter. And they brought Romagnoli, who's an excellent prospect from Roma, on loan. So that's kind of how they replaced their back line. So far, they've really had great defense. They've had great goalkeeping, both from Viviano, who came back from Arsenal after, I don't think he even played at all there, and Romero, who was the starting goalkeeper for Argentina in the World Cup. And both of them have been really sensational this season. So I think they've done very well with a strong defense and players up front who can change the game. Gabbiadini's been really good this season. Okaka has had his moments. So I think Mihailovic has done a really nice job getting the most out of the squad. Obiang is a midfielder who's very intriguing. His first year in Serie A 2 years ago, he was really excellent. I thought last season he took some serious steps back, but this year he's energized. So I think Sampdoria, is overachieving. I don't expect them to keep this up and be in contention for third place, but I could definitely see them potentially in the Europa League and being a very good spoiler the rest of the way.
I was going to say, if they're going to be challenging for that Europa League spot, obviously Genoa is having a great season this year so far, but you've got to look at the AC Milans and the Lazios and the Fiorentinas. One of those guys
Yep.
is going to have to take a back seat, or actually a couple of them are, and that's going to be interesting to see them, especially with the resurgent AC Milan. Now under Pippo Inzaghi, they've seemed to be playing so much better as of late.
Well, I think yesterday their match against Udinese was probably their best match since the home opener against Lazio. I felt in a lot of matches Milan's strategy was just to wait for the counterattack and go with Menez and El Shaarawy. And I felt yesterday they didn't do that. They actually took the game to Udinese, and that was a very good development. I still have some concerns. I think Milan's roster a little bit hit or miss. I think Montolivo is going to help them a lot when they come back. So let's see what he does. Let's also see if they do anything in January. Today they renewed their sponsorship with Fly Emirates, and they said how that may impact their ability to make moves in January. So I see Milan, their roster. I don't think it's as good as, say, a healthy Fiorentina, even Inter, and they're right there with Lazio. So let's see how they do. They might, if they see that they're close to the Champions League in January, try to make like a big purchase like they did with Balotelli a couple of years ago. So I think the next few weeks are really key for them.
And that was great to see Montolivo get back on the pitch this weekend. I thought that was fantastic, to see him get back and get moving. I think in the end, once he gets his legs under him, he's going to be a great addition to really move that side forward.
Yeah, I think, he gets a bad rap. I actually think Italy missed him in the World Cup as well. He's not the flashiest player, but I think, he does make a difference in the midfield. And you look at who else Milan has. If they can get him, Van Ginkel, going, that's pretty good if De Jong can stay healthy. So, yeah, Montolivo, I think we really saw how much Milan struggled without him, that he's more valuable, I think, than most people realize.
All right. I'm going to throw you over to Ben. I know both my co-hosts are waiting in the wings to ask you some questions. So, Ben, go ahead, fire away.
Hi, David. Nice to have you on the show, like I said. Just tell us who you think your pick for Serie A is this year, and how close you think it's going to be between the winners and the second place team.
Great. Great question, Ben. Well, I think, a lot is going to be determined on how things go in the Champions League in the last match. I think Juve is a pretty good bet to go through. Roma, has a big match with Man City. So let's assume they both go through. It'll be interesting to see how much Roma can keep up with Juve. I think Roma, that match against Bayern Munich, really took away a lot of their confidence and their swagger. They look like a different team confidence-wise to me. Their style of play really didn't change too much. So I think, if Roma can get past the Champions League group, on one hand, it's going to make it harder for them because they're going to have more matches to worry about later in the season. But on the other hand, they might also bring back their confidence. So it'll be really interesting to see how that works out. I do think in the league, Juve always does have an edge. And I think, to me, what makes the biggest difference for Juve is their home field advantage is just something we don't see at all for any other Serie A team. They just seem to always find a way to win at home. And I think that makes such a huge difference over the course of the season. But I do expect Roma to keep up with them more so than we've seen in the past few years. I think they need to get Iturbe going. He was their big purchase of the summer. He scored against Juve, but after that he was injured and didn't do too well. If they could get him and Gervinho really hurting teams on the flank, I think they can keep it at least interesting with Juve. But I do expect Juve to win their fourth title in a row.
Actually, David, you kind of led me on to the second question, the Champions League question. Obviously, we've got the Roma Man City game coming up. Could you tell us what your prediction is for the game, and obviously who defines who's going through for you?
I think it's going to be a fascinating match. Man City has a reputation for not being particularly good in the Champions League. They share that with Juve, but I think this match against Roma, especially because they're not doing so well in the Premier League, really, there's so much at stake for them. And they do have some players that I think can really hurt Roma. It was interesting that Totti, in a recent interview, was asked who could take over the number 10 jersey once he retires from Roma, and he mentioned Jovetic, who's a player that, Serie A fans are really familiar with. Obviously Aguero could do a lot of damage. to Roma. So I think that's going to be a fascinating match. I'm curious to see how it goes. Roma usually does have a good home field advantage, but we saw with Bayern how little of an impact that had. So, my prediction is it's going to be close, but I do think Roma is going to pull it off.
Okay, just one last question before I throw you over to Rob. How far, since you said Roma will go through, we'll stay with that for a second. How far do you think Roma and Juventus can go in the Champions League? Are they real contenders for the title for you?
Well, I think last season Juve really had a great chance to do some damage in the Champions League. I think their squad, they had Tevez, who was 1 year younger. They had Barzagli, who I consider their best defender, healthy. And without him, they've kind of struggled in the back line. You really wouldn't see it so much by the amount of goals that they're giving up, but I think Juve just isn't a solid defensive. So I almost feel like last season was really ideal for them. What they do have, though, this season is a coach that really values the Champions League. I think Conte did a fantastic job at Juve, but one complaint that I have is, he just didn't value the Champions League and always felt like Juve was just happy to be there and whatever we get out of it is great. While Allegri keeps saying, we want to be in the top 8, we want to get to the quarterfinals, he keeps talking about winning the group, which I think is great. So I think, the attitude he's bringing to Juve, and now that they're using a 4-man defense, I think that works a little bit better in the Champions League. I do think Juve lacks the great wingers that the top teams in the Champions League tend to have, but I think I'm cautiously optimistic on how they do. Everything too depends on the draw, assuming they get past Atletico, who they get in the next round. Roma, on the other hand, kind of a little bit of the similar. I think they do have the good wing players. Gervinho has been sensational for them. I'm a big fan of Iturbe, and even Lajecic has been playing really well. So they do have the players that tend to do well in the Champions League. So I think Roma could be a very good spoiler as well. But I think, a lot depends on who both teams get in the draw, assuming they get out of the group.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to hand you over to Rob because I know he's been waiting patiently with some more questions for you.
Yes, hi, David. You were mentioning about Juan Iturbe, and that leads to my next question. What do you think of Juan Iturbe so far at Roma ever since leaving Hellas Verona?
Well, I'm a big fan of his. I've been following him closely at Verona. I think, for him it was a big adjustment. He was on a team that focused on the counterattack at Verona, and that was really perfect role for him, setting up Luca Toni and playing on the counterattack. He was sold for a massive transfer fee, and that brings a lot of pressure. I think he started the season pretty well. People forget he did score against Juve, played well in that match, but then was hurt and has struggled since then. He came into the match against Inter yesterday in the second half, created 2 pretty good chances. One he should have buried, the other one he came close. That was a tough one. So I actually think he's a very good player. I think, his price tag makes it easy for people to criticize him. But, in my opinion, price tags are only brought up if a player is a flop. If Iturbe gets it going, as I expect he does, it'll be an afterthought down the road. I think for him, the adjustment is going from a counterattacking team to playing for Rudy Garcia, who demands a lot of defensive work from his wingers. And I think for the most part, he's done it. So I think he's going to come around and be just fine, but people just need to have a little bit of patience with him.
All right. Do you believe that he is a real contender to be best player in Serie A this season? And if so, leading to that question, who do you believe will be the best player in Serie A this season?
Well, to me, the best player in Serie A, and maybe the best player isn't the right word, but the one that makes the biggest difference to me remains Carlos Tevez. I think, a healthy Vidal is also a player that makes a huge difference. I think that's what gives Juve such a big edge is those 2 players just make a huge difference. Iturbe is a very good prospect. I think he's only 22. This is his first time on a big team. And I think there's no team in Italy where you have more pressure than playing for Roma. A lot of people think, Milan and Juve, but the pressure from the fans in Roma is something you really don't see anywhere else. So I think he needs to adapt to that. Roma does have another great player in Kevin Strootman, who's coming back from his injury. He's just come in a couple of times. I think a healthy Strootman is in contention for being from being the best player in Serie A. But that injury that he has usually takes about 18 months to come back. So I don't expect huge things from him this season. I think, the other great player is Higuain. I'm a huge fan of his. Tonight he wasn't able to match Maradona's streak for scoring in 6 goals in a row, which is the record for Napoli. But I think he's another big difference maker. Like a lot of players that were in the World Cup, he started the season pretty slow, but he's been playing really, really well right now.
Okay. I'll say one more follow-up question, and I'll pass it over to Joe. In the Champions League, obviously Juventus and Roma in the final match days of the Champions League group stage. Obviously Juventus are through, but I think the main question is, do you believe Roma can be able to beat Manchester City and qualify with Bayern Munich to the round of 16?
Well, I definitely think they have a good chance. That goal they gave up at the last second against CSKA really kind of makes it harder for them. In a way, it's a little bit similar to when Vidal missed the penalty kick against Olympiacos at the last second, which kind of changed the tiebreaker. But I think, Roma, when you look at when the draw happened, very few people gave Roma a chance in that draw. And I think any Roma fan would have signed for having a chance to qualify the last match at home against Man City. I think any Roma fan would have said that's really best case scenario. So I think since they've been able to make it that far, I certainly think they have a chance. I don't think it's a match that I think it's a given they'll go through, but I think any Roma fan should be very happy with at least being in this position.
Okay. I'll pass it over to Joe for any questions.
Yeah, definitely. I have one question from our chat, David. We have an interactive chat that runs along with the show. And coming from Matt Aldridge, who writes for Hound Sport, he was asking about Mauro Icardi, and I lost it here. Do you think that Mauro Icardi could possibly leave Inter in the summer or even this January in the winter transfer window?
I definitely think there's a chance, and I think Icardi is really a terrific player. I think his off-field antics and his Twitter account, takes away from the fact that he's an absolutely deadly finisher, one of the very best in Serie A. There's definitely a market for him. Atletico Madrid definitely likes him. They have an Italian sporting director who always likes to shop in Italy. Icardi has been a little bit coy about getting an extension with Inter. Yesterday he was benched. He came in at the last second. After the match, he just ran off the pitch, didn't shake hands with anyone. So I think it's possible. I don't expect him to move in January. I think moves like that are much easier in the summer. I think Inter, they've made a commitment to him and Kovacic to keep him and build around him, but once you have big clubs going after you, especially say Inter doesn't make it to the Champions League next year, which certainly doesn't feel like a given, there is a chance he could move. I think Atletico Madrid makes a lot of sense for him. There's also other clubs that may be interested in him, but I think there's certainly a chance for him to leave. But Inter also has said they've learned from the mistakes of the past, like Coutinho, and trying to keep their best prospects. So it's going to be a fascinating situation. I think we'll see it more evolve throughout the year. I don't expect them to move in January.
All right. I'm going to throw you back over to Rob. I know he has another question for you.
Yes, I do. Moving from club football in Italy, we'll go to the national side. Do you believe, obviously we know Cesare Prandelli he left the Italian national team after the World Cup and was replaced by Juventus manager Antonio Conte. Do you believe that he's going to be a great manager for the Italian national team? And do you think his success will be shown in the Euro qualifiers?
I got to be honest. I was very surprised that Conte accepted that job for a couple of reasons. A, he was suspended by the same federation that now is employing him. I always felt like Conte needed to coach a team day in and day out, and I think now he won't have another game with the Azzurri until March, so I think he's going to be really bored in the meantime. And, he's demanding to coach the players more and all that, but that's not really the role of a national team coach. So I thought, on paper, yeah, it makes sense. He's the best manager available. He coached Juve. He knows the players. Let's bring him to the national team. But to me, between the fact that he likes to coach every day, and I think his best quality is really motivating players, and I think that's a little bit harder to do once you just coach them once every 6 to 8 weeks. I think, he's done okay at the beginning. The past few matches have been a little bit rough. He also hasn't shown that he's a particularly good tournament coach. He's better over the course of a season. So I'm very curious to see what happens in the next few months. We saw him quit Juve in July, which is something I've never seen a Juve coach ever do. Is it out of the question that if a big club comes looking for him this summer that he decides to leave? Like, I can't exclude that. We've seen him leave Juve like that, a club that he had really close connections to. And, now he's working for a federation that suspended him. So I'm not saying it's likely, but it's also not impossible. But I'm curious to see what happens from now until March, now that he won't have the players and won't have anything really to do till then. But I can see why the federation hired him. I mean, he was the biggest name available to them. They had hired a president that was getting a lot of flack for some racist comments, and hiring Conte was a great way to change the subject. But I think it's a less of an ideal hire than a lot of people think.
All right. I just have one more question, then I'll lead it up to Ben. This one's about more of a personal question in terms of your profession. How did you get the job working as a translator for Gianluca DiMarzio?
Well, I grew up in the same town as he did in Italy, in Padova. I think we crossed paths a few times when we were younger, growing up. I've been a big fan of his work for a while, regardless. So, I used to tweet his news in English and tag his name, his Twitter handle on there. And after a little while, he noticed. And, I told him, I was like, listen, you're the best in the business. You need to have a site in English, and I'd be happy to do it for you. And, sooner rather than later, he brought me on board. The site has really grown. I went from being just a translator to writing a lot of my own articles on the site. It opened a lot of doors for me. I wouldn't be talking to you guys if it wasn't for him. So, it was a great opportunity. I just saw that there was really a lot of potential for that. I mean, I'm a fanatic of transfer news. I see how poor some sites are as far as being accurate. And while he's not perfect, he's leaps and bounds ahead of the rest. So it's been a great partnership for me. We've become pretty good friends since then. So, I appreciate everyone's support for the English page. I never had any doubt that it would be a big success, but it certainly has exceeded my expectations and opened up a lot of doors for me. So I'm definitely grateful for that.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention I do indeed view your tweets in terms of my transfer news, so I really want to thank you for that.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Pass it over to Ben for any more questions.
Yeah, David. Going a little bit back to the national team, assuming they qualify for Euro 16, which obviously everyone expects they will. What's your expectations for the Italian national team in 2016 in the Euros?
It's a tough question. I think what really hurts Italy, and I think more than the formations that the clubs use in the Champions League, is the fitness level. And this was something that Conte has been talking a lot about. I just don't think the Italian players and the foreign players that play for Italian clubs are particularly fit. They just value tactics, and they focus so much in training that I think they lack that. And I think we see that with the Italian national team. I also look at the talent level. It's just not as good as it used to be even like 10 years ago. Like in 2006, when Italy won the World Cup, they were too deep at every position with world-class players. I mean, now I look at Italy's roster. Who would I say is really a world-class player? Buffon, maybe Chiellini, De Rossi, Verratti, Balotelli on his day when he's motivated. Giuseppe Rossi is hurt. I mean, I just don't see as much talent as there used to be in Italy. There's so many foreign players in Italy, which I don't think particularly helps. And I think the fitness level is definitely a big concern. I mean, I look at even Roma and Juve, like a lot of their signature players are foreign players. So I think, Italy's kind of a little bit in a crisis. I think especially on defense, which used to be, Italy's strength, there just aren't really good prospects coming up like we've seen in the past. The fact that Chiellini is their best defender, I mean, he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but he's certainly not on the level of like a Baresi or a Cannavaro. So, I definitely have question marks. But I also do think, not a lot of people expected Italy to do well in the last Euro, and they made it to the final. I think the World Cup was a disaster, but, it could be a one-off. So let's see what happens in the next few months. I think Italy really needs Balotelli to get back on track. They need Verratti to take the next step and hope that one of the young defenders like Rugani or Romagnoli can show that they're good enough to play for the national team.
Okay, thank you. I'll hand you back over to Joe, and I think he's going to close it out.
Yeah, David, I got just 2 more questions, and then we'll
Sure.
let you go. Again, thank you for your time. I'm going to keep it over into the Serie A in relation to Europe. And this is a discussion I have with my brother all the time, where he's not happy about the fact that Italy only truly gets 2 locked-in spots for the Champions League, and they have the playoff spot for that 3rd position, and they don't get a 4th spot at all. Do you think it's time that Italy deserves a 4th spot? And the reason I ask that is because I always look at the German Bundesliga, who gets, if I remember correctly, they still do get 4 spots. That league, other than Bayern Munich, there isn't a ton to truly talk about. Dortmund's doing very well in the Champions League, but they are in danger of being relegated at this point. So does Italy deserve another spot, or does Serie A deserve another spot?
Well, deserves a big word, but, I think where Italy really pays is that so many teams mailed in the Europa League in years past. I think, that has a huge impact on the ranking, on how the Champions League spots are attributed. And, we saw teams like Udinese as an example, and they do a great job. They have a great business model. I have nothing but respect for what they do. But they look at the Europa League as, this is just in the way. We don't have a roster deep enough to compete on both levels, so we're just going to mail it in the Europa League. And that has really hurt Italy's ranking in the past few years. Then we have Juve, who does great in the league, but typically underachieves in the Champions League. And then we see the Milan-based clubs, which are the ones that usually have the financial resources. They've really struggled. So Italian football on the European level is hurting, but I think they have no one else to blame but themselves. But this season, we're seeing the tide turn. The teams in the Europa League are doing really well. They're all set to qualify. Napoli, Inter, and Fiorentina are taking it seriously, and I think that helps. Hopefully both Juve and Roma can make it. So there's a lot of work to do to get to that 4th spot. I mean, it's not my field of expertise, but they're nowhere close to getting that. But I think, once they start taking the Europa League a bit more seriously, as they have this season, I think we're going to start seeing a better chance of that. And I really do think, Juve fans like that Inter and Milan aren't good, but it's not good for Italian football as far as I'm concerned. Like, it's really important for the movement that they get back on track.
It's funny you mention that, because just before you came on the show with us, we were talking about the Copa Sudamerica and River Plate, who is in the battle for the top spot in the Argentinian First Division, and they are in the final for the Copa Sudamerica, which is kind of the equivalent of the Europa. And we were discussing whether they should be going for that Copa Sudamerica title, or should they be going for that league title instead. So it's funny to hear how that parallels. But I agree with you that the Italian sides, even case in point was Juventus last year, making the Final Four. They should have beaten that Benfica side, but they didn't, and I think it cost them a little more credibility in that department. So I kind of...
Yeah, no, honestly, I think we're going to look back to last season as such a wasted opportunity for Juve across the board. Like, I really think they had really the team to do it. Even Vidal this year just isn't the Vidal we saw last season. Barzaghi's hurt. Tevez is a year older. I really have a lot of regret over that season, but it looks like this season they're trying to make amends for it, and so far so good.
I agree. Last question actually is about Juventus. It's kind of amazing that we've pretty much talked about Italian football for a half hour, and we haven't really brought up Juventus. But as a big Juventino myself, my question is about the relationship between Max Allegri and Andrea Pirlo. Obviously, Allegri was in Milan when Pirlo was there. They let Pirlo go on a free, and some people talk about there was a rift between the two of them where Allegri didn't think that Pirlo was capable of playing anymore. Now Pirlo leads Juventus to 3 straight Scudetti. Max Allegri's brought in to replace Conte. We saw something yesterday that we haven't seen in a long time. That's Pirlo's first goal from open play in the league in 2 years. Is the relationship patched? Is it still on shaky ground? And how much longer does Pirlo have playing football?
I personally think the storyline of Pirlo and Allegri not liking each other is vastly overblown in the media. In Pirlo's book, he takes a lot of digs at Galliani for quitting on him. There's a lot of jokes about the pen Galliani gave him once he left Milan and that he wanted to use that pen to sign with Juve. So I think it was much more of a rift with Galliani than, say, Allegri. And, one other factor that's really important in this is Pirlo is extremely close to Juve president Andrea Agnelli. Like, they are very, very tight. I have a very hard time believing that Andrea Agnelli would have brought on Allegri to coach Juve if he thought there was a big rift with Pirlo, who had just signed, by the way, a big extension with Juve. So I think it's a great storyline in the media, and people love talking about it. And I remember, once Allegri came on, that people assumed Pirlo was going to leave. But I go back to the fact that Pirlo has such a strong relationship with Andrea Agnelli, and Juve would have hired, say Conte had quit in May, Juve was going to hire Allegri regardless. This story, we didn't have there was nobody else available, Conte left in July. I mean, that sounds great and all, but they were going to hire Allegri regardless. So I think it's a little bit overblown. I think, Pirlo's smart enough to, go with the coach that he has. And I think, if you use him the right way, I think, Pirlo has a contract with Juve through the end of next season. I think there's, if you use him well and don't play him too much, there's no reason not to think that he can be a very valuable player. I think after that, we're actually going to see him play in the U.S. He's always said he wants to come here, so I think we're going to get a treat to see him in the MLS. But I think he's going to be a valuable player for Juve through next season.
I'll bet you're hoping he goes to New England.
I sure do. Yeah, I was hoping for Del Piero, but I think even he might be done altogether. So yeah, no, I'd love to have him here. I could see him. LA is always a spot that players want to be in. If Miami ever has a team, that's a place where he could go as well. But yeah, I'd love to have him in my backyard here.
Last follow up on Pirlo, real quick. Is he the best free kick taker in the world, or is there anybody better?
Well, I think he makes a great case. We also see Pjanic on Roma, who's terrific. Both Pirlo and Pjanic are inspired by Juninho, the Brazilian player. He kind of taught them all their tricks. They watched them both. But I would say, if my life depended on a free kick and I needed the ball to go in, if I had to pick a player, I'd have to pick Pirlo. So I think he definitely still has that honor.
I agree. David, thank you again for joining us. I'm so glad we finally got you on the show and we got connected. I'm glad to talk Serie A with you, and we'd love to have you back sometime soon.
Absolutely. No, it was a pleasure chatting with all of you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry.
All right. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Have a great
evening. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ben. Take care now. Ciao.
David Amoyal from Gianluca DiMarzio, guys. Fantastic interview. I've been wanting to talk to him for a long, long time. And seriously, now that we finally got him on, I'm really excited. And you can just, the guy knows everything about Serie A football. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was really informative.
Yeah. Ben, how about you?
I think, like Rob said, it's really informative. And, like I've said many times on the show, we have so many guests from so many different divisions, and we haven't had someone for the for Serie A, and now we have, and like every other guest we have on the show, very well knowledged and and in depth and able to answer any question we threw at them accurately and and to the point, and that's what makes our show keep going, because I think we're just getting such a wide range of guests and so many different opinions, and these people, they know their football, and we get to pick their brains, and then everyone else gets to listen to it. So yeah, it was very, very good.
No, I agree. You know what? I'm going to keep this ball rolling because on Twitter I noticed that Susie Schaarf is planning on coming on in about 15 minutes. So just to change the lineup again, Susie obviously writes for Bayern Central. She knows everything about the Bundesliga, just like we had David, talking about everything Serie A. So Ben, why don't you take us through the scores and highlights of the Bundesliga? I know we're kind of going out of order a little bit, but at least we'll get that. We'll get the scores and highlights, and then we'll have Susie on.
Yep. Just give me 2 seconds just to bring up the game of the week. But I'm gonna run through the highlights, and then I'm gonna talk about the featured game, the Wolfsburg Mönchengladbach game. But go through the scores quickly first. On Friday night we had Freiburg losing 4-1 at home to Stuttgart. Then on the Saturday we had Schalke beating Mainz 4-1, Bayer Leverkusen beating FC Cologne 5-1, Bayern Munich winning 1-0 at Hertha Berlin. Werder Bremen winning 4-0 at home to Paderborn. Augsburg beating Hamburger 3-1. And Hoffenheim beating Hanover 4-3 on the Saturday. And then there was 2 games on Sunday. Eintracht Frankfurt beating Borussia Dortmund 2-0, which consequently sends Borussia Dortmund bottom of the table. This is a Champions League team that is now sitting bottom of the Bundesliga, but we'll touch upon that in a second. But the game I wanted to talk about was the Wolfsburg Borussia Mönchengladbach game. It was the game the game of the week, from last week. I said 2-1 to Wolfsburg. It finished 1-0 Wolfsburg, so I got the right result and the correct score margin, but obviously not the correct score. But anyway, I digress. Wolfsburg, just to give you an idea on statistics, Wolfsburg 23 shots, 12 on target, and Mönchengladbach 10, 2 on target. But with Mönchengladbach had a lot more possession with 63%. This Wolfsburg team, Bayern Munich's closest rival in the race for the Bundesliga title, if you want to call it a race, after winning 1-0 on Sunday, like I said. As Robin Noche's goal in the 12th minute was enough for them to take off 3 points and move them 6 points clear of Mönchengladbach and reducing the Bayern deficit to 7 points. But a really close game, I expected it to be, and Mönchengladbach were clearly rattled. You can see it if you get a chance to watch the highlights. And after Wolfsburg scored, they did have to hold on for a bit. 2 fine saves from the goalkeeper DiMarzio, and first to 9 Brouwer's volley down to his right, and then it was a Hermann header with an instinctive stop, which was a great save. But like I said, Mönchengladbach lots of possession, and to be fair to them, they pushed and pushed for the equaliser. Knew it was going to be close, and De Bruyne really had the only other chance for Wolfsburg. Really, apart from that, it was all Mönchengladbach. But Wolfsburg second favourites to the title now that it's done. But they're becoming more and more consistent. They're putting results together and they're grinding out results, which is what you really need to do if you're going to be in and around the top runners in any division. And for me, they're going to qualify for the Champions League, no doubt. I just don't think there's enough consistency around any of the other teams. But you just can't help think that they're not going to have enough to trouble Bayern in this division. But yeah, Wolfsburg second for me. I'm just going to run through the league quickly before I preview the next game. Before Susie comes on. Obviously, Bayern Munich, top of the league, 33 points. Then we have Wolfsburg in second, like I just spoke about, 5 wins in 6 on 26 points, but still 7 adrift of Bayern. Then it's 3 points to Bayer Leverkusen in third on 23, and then 2 points to Augsburg in fourth on 21. And then we have Borussia Mönchengladbach on 20, Schalke on 20, and Hoffenheim on 20 in seventh. On the bottom of the table, like I said, Borussia Dortmund, 11 points, bottom of the table, and then Hamburger, Stuttgart and Freiburg all on 12 points, and then to Werder Bremen in 14th on 13 points. Although it is close on the bottom, I know we talked about it last week, Joe, about Borussia Dortmund saying, well, Rob as well actually, saying that we thought they could go on a run now, maybe get in, maybe there's still an outside chance of Europa League, but they're really not looking good. I know, Joe, we were saying they're doing well in the Champions League, and then they lose to Arsenal, don't really look that impressive for me, and then get beat by Eintracht Frankfurt. Solidified mid-table Bundesliga team at best, Joe. Obviously, you wouldn't expect Borussia Dortmund to go down, but surely this is going to trouble them, so much when it comes to the window to attract players.
Oh, absolutely, because if they get knocked out of this Champions League position, or if they get knocked out of all of this, let's imagine for a fact they get relegated. That's going to be destructive to the Dortmund side. That is really, in most recent history, been one of the more successful sides in Germany. it's certainly going to be detrimental to them. They're really going to need to do something. That was actually one of my questions for Susie coming up was about Borussia Dortmund and what's going on with them.
Yeah, it's just surprising. It's so surprising for me, and it's not only that; it's keeping the players going forward. I mean, you look at the team and you look at players like Royce, and they've got, for me, a solid defence, and you look at on paper they've got a solid defence, but you look at the goals against, they've let in 21 goals in 13 games. They're just not there defensively, and they just don't seem to be playing as a team. And if they don't do something about it soon, then they're going to really, really struggle in this division. But like I said, you don't expect them to go down, but definitely be interesting if they do finish mid-table this year, what happens in the summer, and not so much what players they can attract, but what players can they keep going into the start of next season. So, we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll keep an eye on Borussia Dortmund as the season goes. Just to preview one game quickly for next week.
Yes.
It's Bayern Munich by Leverkusen next week for me. That's this Saturday coming, the 6th. And like I said, Bayern 7 points clear, Leverkusen in 3rd, 10 points adrift, and 2 points clear of Augsburg in 4th. Bayern, like we said, massive favourites to the title, and Leverkusen, yeah, they should be top 3, especially with Dortmund dropping out. They've got a pretty decent team, and there's going to be teams in and around them, but I think for me on paper, this Leverkusen team should qualify for the Champions League for next season. So, it's not going to be an easy game for Bayern, I don't think, but you've got to feel that Bayern at home are going to have enough to comfortably win this game, but without, it won't be an embarrassing scoreline. So I'm going to say 2-0 to Bayern Munich.
2-0. All right. And you're going into the book. So, we've got a few more minutes before Susie comes on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Serie A information, I would say, just before she comes on. This way we'll get Serie A out of the way as well. And then we'll be clear of our Germany and Italy before we get going. And of course, Joey Essex in the chat. Actually, you know what? Susie's telling me she's ready now, so why don't we have her join us now? Let me just add her into the call here, and we can go ahead and chat away with her now instead. So, and joining us now on Low Limit Football is Susie Schaarf, writer for Bayern Central. Susie, how are you tonight?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Oh, thanks for joining us. We're glad to get you onto the show tonight. I'm going to start us off with a quick Dortmund question, because we were just talking about Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. They've kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team over the year. They're currently in the relegation spot in the Bundesliga, but going to win their group in the Champions League. So, what's going on with them that they're so bad on the weekend, but they're so good during the week?
It's really kind of a multi-pronged problem. I mean, it comes from all over. I think the difference between Champions League competition and most of the competition in the Bundesliga is that the big Champions League teams, when you make the Champions League, and the bigger Bundesliga teams play Borussia Dortmund a little bit open, whereas the lesser sides in league play tend to play, 10 men behind the ball and go for their chances on the break. Leaving Dortmund open with all the speed that they have on their wings gives them a greater chance of succeeding. Unfortunately, for them, the league has got that figured out, and it makes it a little bit more difficult for them in Bundesliga competition.
Okay. And before I move forward, I'm going to introduce you to my co-host, which I was so rude not to do. First up is Rob Rojas, who you were talking to back and forth with direct message. So say hi to Susie.
Hi, Susie. It's nice to meet you and finally talk to you.
Hi. Yay, finally.
And joining us in England is Ben the Machine, who actually covers the Bundesliga for us. So Ben, say hi.
Hi, Susie. I'm looking forward to talking to you about it because, like I said, the Bundesliga is what I cover. And, it's going to be nice to ask you some questions. So, yeah.
Excellent. I can't wait.
And Ben just predicted that Bayern Munich would beat Bayer Leverkusen this weekend 2-0. So there you go. I'm going to actually, I don't know, neither of them told me which one is next for questions. So I'm going to throw it over to Ben and put him on the spot.
Okay. First, Susie, just a question. A general question, actually, at the top of the Bundesliga. How far ahead do you believe that Bayern Munich are from the rest of the Bundesliga? I mean, I talk about it, and obviously we all talk about it as a group, that the Bayern dominate this division more than any team for me in any division since I've been following football, and and I was 30 this year. But how far do you feel they are ahead from the rest of the Bundesliga, and do you expect the gap to close anytime soon?
I don't know if tactically they're that far ahead. I think that Pep does some very, very amazing, interesting things, but there are a lot of good teams, and then there are a lot of mediocre teams that tend to have really, really good days. The Bundesliga is crazy. Once you get past the top 3 spots this season, or even 2, it's 6 points between relegation and Europe, which is nuts. Bayern, they're lucky with their transfer kitty, and they're lucky with their financial situation, that they're able to bring in the quality and the class of players that they have, and I think it's always going to put them on top. Over the last 2 seasons, winning the league by 25 and then 19 points, it kind of makes the league look bad, but it's well done by the club for the product that they've been able to put on the field, I think.
Oh, okay. So, just another question, actually Bayern based. How do you feel Bayern's chances in the Champions League? Can they win it this season for you?
Absolutely, they can win it this season. You want to look at Real Madrid, and you want to look at Chelsea, and maybe Barcelona to a certain extent. I think these are teams that you would rather face in a home and away situation than a one-off in a final. Although that being said, most everybody I know wants to see a Bayern Real Madrid final.
Just one last question before I hand it over to Rob. We had a little bit of a conversation about the Bundesliga earlier, and about the Champions League places allocated to the Bundesliga. I know Joe's talked about it a little bit as well. As far as the Bundesliga getting 4 Champions League places, do you feel that the Bundesliga's got enough strength in depth once you get past the top 2 or so to advocate having 4 places? Do you think that like the 4th place team in Germany is say better than the 4th team in Italy? Do you feel it's adequate to have 4 places there?
That's a great question. Over the years, it seemed that maybe not. Top 2 places always seem to go through into elimination rounds, and then the other 2, somebody goes to play in Europa League, and somebody goes home. I don't know, but I think maybe that the 5-year coefficient ranking is basically based on Bayern Munich's success, and maybe it's a little bit unfair looking at other leagues, but as Bayern is not likely to get really worse anytime soon, I don't think that changes. No, it may not be fair, but it's just kind of the way that it is.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to get your opinion on it. I'm just going to hand you over to Rob, who I believe has got some questions.
Yes, I do. Obviously, we know Bayern Munich lost the lead and the match to Manchester City on Tuesday, to the much of your dislike. But I do have this one question. What do you think happened in that match, and what went wrong for them?
You know what? It was probably one of the more enjoyable losses that I've ever watched. To me, from minute 20 until minute 85, Bayern pretty much owned City, and being a man down. Screws started to turn in the second half. Thought the legs got a little bit tired. Bernat was having a lot of problems with Jesus Navas throughout the match, and I think that kind of was maybe the worst part about it. The red card by Benatia, that wasn't the reason the team got better, I don't think. I think that Bayern would have turned the screws eventually. The first 15 minutes were really kind of open and back and forth, like any really good Champions League matchup is. That I always kind of feel like, first 15 minutes is squeaky bum time, and maybe the last 5 or 10 is as well, where you just kind of sit around and you're like, don't give up a goal. But as far as the play between minutes 20 and 85, it was spectacular. And then really, you can count the loss to 3 mistakes. Benasia's red card, obviously, on Aguero. Then Xabi Alonso's intended cross to Dante, which hit Aguero flat in the chest. And then Jerome Boateng with a kind of attempted Cruyff turn that didn't quite work out, with Aguero right at his feet as well, And all 3 guys will be the first to admit, they are the reasons that those goals were scored. Looking at the end of it, though, there's nothing to be upset about, especially because in the end, Bayern had already won Group G and it didn't matter.
Okay. Just a follow-up for that question. Do you think Bayern will go as far as to the semifinals?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it would be weird because it's still seeded going into the round of 16. So
yeah, I understand.
They're going through in first, and the teams that are going through in first are not obviously not playing each other. They're I guarantee that Bayern draws Arsenal again in the round of 16, though, if Arsenal doesn't come out on top of the group, of course.
It'll be fascinating. Just one more follow-up question, then I'll give it up to Joe. What are your likes and dislikes of Pep Guardiola so far at Bayern for the last 2 seasons?
The initial season, and I guess as an American, I'm a German American, but I live in the United States. I have a little bit of a different view on Pep Guardiola than most Germans do. I thought it was amazing to come in but didn't really understand what was happening the first season as far as occupational changes on the field and positioning. It really kind of took a good 6 months or so for me to turn my head around and say, okay, this is what he's going to do. And then to start to see it happen was a revelation. Was kind of a revelation for me, and I think this season in particular, the work that he did over the last season is really, really starting to pay off. I mean, he's got guys. He's got guys in positions now that are playing out of their heads. Maybe they always had to. For instance, Jerome Boateng has turned into the best center back in the Bundesliga and one of top 5 in the world right now.
Okay. Yeah, I totally understand. I'm going to pass it to Joe for any questions.
Sure.
Actually, you know what? Ben said that he has a Dortmund question.
Okay.
So he's going to take. We got a couple of questions in chat. I'm going to let Ben take them because they're both Dortmund questions regarding Marco Reus and Jurgen Klopp. So my question to you is, I'm going to give you the backstory about it first. 3 weeks ago on beIN Sport, they had a segment on Wednesday night called "What If," and it was suggested about teams or leagues putting together like an all-star squad from their side. So the Bundesliga would put together an all-star squad, and Serie A would put together an all-star squad, and they would kind of play this World Cup style all-star match or all-star tournament. And they said that they couldn't give us a Bundesliga side because they could only pick 4 players from one particular team, and they couldn't decide who to leave off from the Bayern Munich side. So my question is kind of along those lines, because everyone would say that it would be Bayern Munich as the starters and then a couple players from Dortmund and a couple players from Schalke as the bench. My question to you is if you could replace one player on Bayern Munich with somebody else in the German Bundesliga, who would you remove and who would you replace him with?
I would replace Frank Ribery with Marco Reus.
Okay. I actually like that. I didn't even think of that one. I mean, Ribery with the Munich side, Ribery has flown under the radar quite a bit. You talk about the addition of Lewandowski and what he's done for the team. So you don't really talk about Frank Ribery. Everyone wants to talk about Arjen Robben. And, of course, Manuel Neuer is the big topic of the day with the Ballon d'Or coming up. No one ever wants to talk about Frank Ribery anymore. You almost forget he's on the squad.
Well, he spent the beginning of the season out with that back injury. I think it's done him a lot of good to quit France. He's born in 1983. He's over 30 now. And his body is starting to break down. I think, the position that he plays, it's kind of weird because you look at the other side of the pitch and Arjen Robben is having an absolute resurgence. Last season and now into this, it has been the best in his career. So I don't know if you can blame it on Bayern trainers or not or whatever, but for some reason, Robben seems to be thriving and Ribery seems to be finally breaking down.
So, and Ben, I'm going to steal her from you for one more second because I am going to ask one of the questions from chat. Matt Aldridge from Hound Sports wanted to know where you think Marco Reus will be playing football next season.
I don't think at Bayern Munich. Actually, I hope not at Bayern Munich. I know that the rumors are going around and are being bandied about that there was some sort of talk where Bayern had promised not to buy Reus. I don't see Bayern management ever saying anything like that. But for the love or now the hate between the two clubs, I hope that if he leaves BVB that he goes to England or possibly Spain. I could see him at Arsenal. I could see him at Liverpool. I could see him at Manchester United. I could see him at Madrid, but Madrid now they don't really require his services at Madrid currently.
Can't you push him to my way at Juventus? Can't you at least put
Yeah, sure, why not? Are Juventus willing to shell out the bucks? Yeah. Here's the thing is that transfer clause he can override. He gets to choose where he gets to go. So now it's more of a matter of transfer fee, what helps BVB out. I mean, he is a BVB guy through and through. And what he's going to make going somewhere else as well. You'd like to say that, well, crap, I'd love to make $4 million a year, but if the option is there to make $9 million,
right?
I don't know. Well, you're kind of supposed to take it. You know what I
mean? Matt, who posed the question, is a Chelsea supporter, and he would prefer that he goes to Chelsea.
Ah, right on. Aww. And then kick out Shirley.
Yeah, right. He would have done it on the national
By the way, I totally forgot about Marco Marin the other day until he scored, and I was like, oh my God, where is he right now? Right. That's hilarious.
Ben, I'll let you ask the question about Jurgen Klopp.
Okay. Yeah, Susie. The other question from chat, also from Matt from Households. He said, if Klopp was to leave mid-season, who could replace him, and do you think he should be let go?
That's tough. There's 4 matches left in the Hinrunde, and then another 17 in the Rückrunde, and the talent is there despite their horrible injuries. They still have the talent. They haven't been adequately able to replace Lewandowski. Well, I mean, they have talent-wise. Ciro Immobile, Aubameyang, Adrian Ramos. They're all brilliant players that just have not performed. I want to say BVB has shot at goal 241 times this season and have only converted 14 times in the league. And that's kind of criminal, and it's something that's not supposed to be happening. I think if Klopp were to leave, which I doubt, the best available German coach, that speaks the language automatically and everything, is far and above Thomas Tuchel, the ex-Mainz coach. And I would, as a Bayern supporter, not be happy with that because I want Thomas Tuchel very badly. I would love to see what, he had a great success at Mainz with a very small kitty and, just trying to get it done. Very, very fluid in tactics throughout matches, much the same as Pep Guardiola works, and I think it would be fantastic to see him coach at a club with a larger transfer kitty than the one that Mainz had.
Okay. Whilst you're on Dortmund, Susie, just one last Dortmund question. Give us your opinion on where you think Dortmund are going to finish come the end of the season.
I think they could still finish Europa League.
You still think they can finish Europa? Yeah.
Yeah, they could still finish Europa League. What is it? They're at 11 points right now, and Hoffenheim in 7th is at 20. So they're 9 points off Europa League with 21 matches to play. That's imminently possible if they get their act together, like, next week.
You say that, like I said, I cover the Bundesliga, and I've been saying that week in, week out. So it's good to say.
No, this is the week. No, this is the week. It was really, really unfortunate for Dortmund, for Alex Meyer to score, as early as it did. It kind of put them on their heels and threw them off their match in the match against Frankfurt. And I really do. I would like them to get it sorted out. I think BVB that doesn't qualify for Europe is kind of a sort of sad thing.
Okay, thank you. Just one last question before I hand you over to Rob, and you don't have to listen to me anymore. This question's about the German national team, actually. Just a little bit off what we've been speaking about. Do you expect Germany to, just completely dominate and win Euro 2016? And who do you think are the main threats to them?
No, I don't actually. We'll see what happens in qualification. It's been kind of weird at the beginning, with Mertesacker and Lahm and Klose retiring, and then everybody else being hurt. I mean, Bastian Schweinsteiger has only recently just gotten sparse minutes for Bayern. Hummels has been out, and guys that they really depend on haven't been able to feature in qualifying matches. Still pick kind of Belgium as a dark horse, possibly. Poland looks decent as well. I would say Croatia goes through too. It's kind of going to be up in the air. I don't see a real clear threat or anybody really overtaking as far as qualification goes. So it'll be an interesting tournament in France for sure.
Any hope for England coming from an Englishman?
Oh yeah, of course. There's always hope for England.
Okay, thank you, Susie. I can. I'm sure there's 70 million English people where you can go sleep at night now. So yeah, I had to ask.
I'm used to it.
Yeah, it's okay. I know Matt's English as well, so we have got some English people listening. Okay, I'll hand you over to Rob because I know he's got a question for you.
Sure. Yes, I do. Going back to Germany, I guess, and sticking to the topic, what do you think contributed to Germany's success to obviously win that World Cup and their first major title in, I believe it was 18 years, if I'm not mistaken?
96, yep. All sorts of number of things just kind of fell into place. I think Jogi Löw kind of got out of the way of his players and just let them do what they were good at. I think the failure in Euro the couple years before was his over-tinkering with lineups and changing them from match to match because he was convinced there was a mole in the team that was giving, public record to what he was about to do. And it really came down to that, a level of maturity blended with, some bright young talent. It's just kind of a whole team effort. You go from the back to the front, and it's either the grizzled veterans like Bastian Schweinsteiger with bleeding, during Argentina, and Manuel Neuer doing all the crazy stuff he did against Algeria, and Thomas Müller scoring from wherever he scores from, whether it's his hip, knee, whatever, adding to the veterans, and then of course Götze's brilliant goal to win it all for Argentina against Argentina. Like I said, I think it just as a whole, all the pieces kind of have to be in place, and that also involves what group you're in and, how the tournament kind of plays out. For all the better teams, it's not necessarily a walkthrough once you get past your group. It kind of shapes up like who you're meeting after that.
All right. Going back to that certain World Cup, I just have a few more follow-up questions. How did you feel when Germany played the United States prior to that match? Obviously, being a German American, what did you really expect from that match beforehand and afterwards? What did you think Germany did well, and how the United States did well?
I thought the United States defended very well. They played Germany very physical and tough. To be fair, when Germany and the United States play, I have no question. I've always been a German supporter. I am an American Outlaws fan, supporter as well. I am a member, but that's secondary team for me. So when the two square up, I'm solidly German. Against everybody else, I'm United States, but that is what that is. I thought the defensive pressure went very well. It was kind of a hard fought, beat down kind of match, and I really like those. I appreciate those.
All right. How did you celebrate the World Cup final win? Obviously, being a German.
Can we say drunk?
That'd be the right phrase.
So I was wearing the white home jersey, and I help out at a English pub that shows every match locally, but I don't work during Germany matches. Anyway, I was wearing the white jersey, and I had 2 shots of Jägermeister in my hand, right? And I was about to turn around and hand them off when Götze scored the goal, and somebody came up and tackled me from behind and poured both shots of Jaeger down the front of my white shirt. So instead of going home to change, I went out the entire night like that with this huge brown V. And to this day, I will not wash that kit. I'll never wear it again either. But I have that as my record. You know what? I tell you what, when the final whistle blew, normally I don't cry when we lose. I cry when we win. And I was absolutely in tears. I was shambles for like a complete 10, 15 minutes until I could even talk to anybody about it. Really, really kind of a wonderful moment. And I think very well deserved, considering what, Germany has been the bridesmaid for so long now and never the bride. So it was really, really enjoyable to be the bride again.
All right, just one more. Do you think that Manuel Neuer will get the Ballon d'Or, or if not, do you see him getting a better ranking in the top 3 over Messi? And do you believe Jogi Löw wins Coach of the Year?
I think they may give Coach of the Year to Simeone.
Simeone?
Yeah.
Wow. And for Neuer?
Just for something different. I want so bad for Neuer to win. I don't think it'll happen. Cristiano Ronaldo is very deserved. I just feel that in a World Cup year, like, that tournament should matter. I know it's individual, what he's done for Real Madrid has been amazing and spectacular. But, getting out in the group stages in World Cup, I think should matter. I think should be a part of it. I don't think Neuer will win, though. But I do think he'll come in second above Messi, and I hope he does.
All right. Yeah, I actually do believe that as well. All right, thank you. Joe, to close it off.
All right. First of all, Susie, just to take my quick cheap shot, you know that Germany won because they didn't have to face Italy, right?
Probably.
Sorry, but as an Italian American, I can say that. But,
probably. No, absolutely, you can say that. No, you know what? And I was very, very thankful not to have to go through, 2012 again, because that was horrible.
But well, what about for me, it was 2006.
Oh God, and that was horrible too.
that's what I'm talking about. No, but and not to take a cheap shot at my co-host, but you and I are the only two that on this call that are experienced in our countries winning a World Cup, and it is
Ben has as well.
In fairness, it was a long, long while ago, and I wasn't born for another 18 years.
66?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we won 66, of course. And I mean, there was a game at Wembley where we scored 5 and Germany didn't score. And I think, it went down quite illustrious.
You know what? I know that even Heskey scored chant. So
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. If Heskey scored against Germany, then I could have scored against Germany. But in fairness, that's only because the England national football lets English football fans down so often. They had to just grab at something so as to go to work the next day without killing somebody. I think.
It's funny, and kind of staying on the segue. Like a lot of English supporters talk to me. They're like, well, we have all these anti-German chants. What are the anti-English chants? And I tell them, I'm like, honestly, we don't have any because we don't consider you a threat.
That's not even fair.
Sorry.
No, I mean, in fairness, I do think that obviously Germany are English they are the English biggest rivals, I think. But then that's only because the same reason, because there's no one close to England like in the British Isles that is a threat to England, so we have to go a bit further afield. So I mean, although I feel bad, I'm sure there's Scottish fans and Irish fans that feel a lot worse. So.
This is likely true. I just thought I'd mention that because I always think that that's really funny, and because I speak both English and German, obviously, to hear all the English chants, I get a good laugh out of them. I can tell you the 2010 World Cup, when Germany beat England, I was in a pub as one of 3 Germans full of 500 Englishmen. And after we went 4-1 up, everybody had given me just banter the entire match. Banter, 2 World Wars and 1 World Cup, and even Heskey scored.
That's the chant,
all that crap, and every single chant against Germans. And I just listened to it or whatever. And after Germany scored the 4th, you could hear a pin drop in the pub, right? And I started singing really quiet. There were 10 German bombers in the air.
Wasn't that was the game that that was the game that Lampard scored the equaliser that wasn't. Yeah.
Yes.
It's okay. The referee won it for you, but it's okay.
Sorry.
No, I mean, in fairness,
we can talk about 66 as well whenever you'd like.
No, I just think that there's always been. Like, we've always had a very good national league. Like, the Premier League is, beyond doubt, like, strength beyond strength. But there's just not enough, so much English talent coming out of the Premier League. I think a lot of foreign players coming to the Premier League is not helping as well. But I don't even think it's that so much. I just don't think that we, even when we had the world-class players, I just don't think we ever really had the bottle to be able to do anything.
I don't know. I think a lot of it, looking at England, I think a lot of it has to do with the influx of foreign players in the Premier League. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, or maybe I'm just used to, the German system where everybody kind of hangs out, and now, only now, really, over the last 10 or 15 years, are you seeing not an exodus, but guys that are playing, that are going elsewhere to play. Where it used to be only the creme de la creme, and now it's maybe down a level of guys that are trying their wares out in a different league other than the Bundesliga.
I think so as well. It's nice to see teams like Southampton doing well. That have got a few English players on their books, and a few of the Manchester United team as well. So there still is some English players, and we've got a nice young team. But yeah, it's been nice talking to you. Thanks for coming.
But I think that, and like you said, I think that England, they're a product of their own
Oh, 100%.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, you don't have to be sorry. I think it's just something that's very prominent in English. I think that's why if you talk to any English fans, I mean, from my point of view as well, most English football fans, whenever the international break comes on, always just can't wait for the Premier League to start back up again. Even though the team I support is actually in the Championship, so it's even worse. But I mean, they just want to get the internationals out of the way.
Yeah, just get it out of the way. I mean, I kind of do.
Yeah.
I kind of do as well. I'm diehard DFA, but I am dieharder, Bayern, and especially now with all the injuries this season that Bayern and the German national team have had. Like over this last break, I said, I don't really care what happens. Just nobody get hurt. Nobody get hurt. That's all I want,
Mm-hmm.
Come back to the team. That's it.
I know. It's always been the age-old question, isn't it? I remember ever since I was little, and when I first got into football, when I was about 11 or 12, and then people saying, like, if you had a choice of your domestic team winning, having the best season ever, or your nation winning a cup, and that was always close for us. I just think that I just don't know really. I mean, I don't know which one I would prefer, but
I mean,
it'd be nice to see them win a game. Man.
It's kind of extraordinary that I just recently got both, So I got Bayern winning the treble in 2013, and then Germany winning the World Cup in 2014, and I can't really say what I enjoyed more. I mean, I was at the final at Wembley to see Bayern win, in person, and I wasn't in Brazil. So that is sort of a more visceral, reaction for me where, holy crap, I was there, but, and maybe that now carries over into how I feel about the club versus country.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's more about how you are when your team do bad, really, and like how much support you still have them. Because I mean, like, obviously, I just love punishment. That's why my national team are poor and my domestic team are quite poor. I love them both to bits, and but it's just how it does. I don't get neither, but so I'm not bitter. I just do this.
You have to take the small things, right?
I mean, like,
small victories.
Yeah, I mean, my country won the World Cup in '66, and my football team won the Premier League 20 years ago. But I didn't really get much chance to enjoy either. Really.
Oh no!
I mean, I don't want pity. I'm just saying, like, it's just how you are as a fan. Like, especially speaking as a Blackburn Rovers fan. You do see where a lot of fans seem to get off the boil, and they're not quite as much into football when their team are doing bad. And this is something you see the stadiums become more and more empty, and you just think your team must need you more at that point. And that's the way I've always thought of it. Like, they need the support more at that point than they do when they're doing really well and everyone's on the bandwagon. But I don't know. I guess that's just how football is and how people are. It's quite a fickle game, and the supporters are fickle as well.
Of course, I think to segue back into German football, I think that the Borussia Dortmund supporters have been fantastic as of yet this season. There were some whistles, or there have been, but they get 80,000 at their stadium every time they play there still, and everybody for the most part seems to be willing to let Klopp and the players get it sorted out and to give them a shot to come back in some sort of glory by the end of the season, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, of course. It's how football is. You take the good with the bad. It's not even so much the love for the teams. It's the love of the game, and that's why we have a radio show. That's why we're talking to you, and that's why there's people listening in the chat and asking questions. It's a love for the game on a global scale, and I think that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes it exciting. That's
pretty awesome, right?
I'm just going to hand you back to Joe because I've just been talking on really. Joe's got one more question for you.
Actually, I have the last question of the night, and after that World Cup discussion, it almost seems obscure, this question at this point, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway because it's not about Bayern Munich, it's not about Borussia Dortmund, it's about Borussia Mönchengladbach. Coming into the last few weeks of the season, they were the only other undefeated side in the Bundesliga along with Bayern Munich. But they've lost their last 3 straight, including losing to Borussia Dortmund recently. They're first place in their Europa League table. They look like they're going to go through with a match against FC Zurich at home to close out the group. So they look like they're pretty much guaranteed to move through. But they've fallen as of late against teams in the Bundesliga. Are they a flash in the pan, or are they somebody that's going to, come back?
You know what? I to start the season, I didn't think so. But like you said, with 3 straight losses, I think they might be now. Okay, so granted, they're at 20 points. They have lost their last 3. They're 1 point under Champions League spots right now. Mm-hmm. So, this fall, this quote fall from grace unquote has not been uber damaging. Right. But I really like the way that Gladbach plays football, and I would have thought that they would keep in the top 3 and not be 13 points behind Bayern as they sit right now. Kind of weird seeing them go down to Wolfsburg, and now Wolfsburg actually looks to be the real deal. And after that win, 7 points behind Bayern on 26. See what happens on the weekend when Leverkusen and Bayern match up, and see if that doesn't narrow down a little bit. But yeah, Mönchengladbach, the season is not over for the Foles by any stretch of the imagination. I think they maintain eventually or crawl back up into Champions League spots.
Yep. And for us here in the United States, we have a special place for Mönchengladbach because of Fabian Johnson on the side.
Of course.
Yeah. So, again, Susie, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you coming on. We had a great time talking, and we'd love to have you back real soon.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. This was great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Susie. It was nice to have you on the show, and it was great chatting.
Absolutely. Let's do it again.
All right. Good night.
Danke.
And that was Susie Schaarf, from senior writer for Bayern Central. Guys, what did you think?
It was great.
Yeah.
Great conversation.
I think she was. She's obviously a really passionate football fan, and obviously really passionate about national team and football team. She said, and and like we said, it's nice to go from division to division, and from league to league, and from opinion to opinion. And I think that's what varied guests and different talking points. That's what makes it fun, and obviously, fans. People that are coming on to show that really know what they're talking about, and it's nice to be able to ask questions and get really in-depth answers to the questions as well.
Yeah, I've got to say, all the guests that we've ever had on the show, they've all been great. We haven't had, we've really been lucky. We haven't had a bad one, but she was one of the fun ones. Do you know? It reminds me of Juan Arango when Juan came on, and he's like, "Let's have some fun," Rick, we had a great conversation. That's what that felt like. So that, for me, that was really, really enjoyable, and I had a great time talking to her. So.
I can remember him actually mentioning about Susie, if you think about it.
Well, if I remember correctly, the other person that is tight with Susie is George DiMarzio. Yeah, so...
Well, at the end, it's a fun game, isn't it? Football's a fun game, and, and fun's a nice byproduct of the show, and, we're all doing this for fun. We're not getting paid to do this, but it's nice to it's nice to have fun and bounce opinions off each other, because obviously football's quite a subjective game, and it's nice to see everyone's opinion on the same subject, and it's nice when we all get to talk about a similar subject and get each other's opinions.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I guess I would like to mention you were mentioning about how England won 5-1 against Germany in Munich some years ago. Paraguay actually drew Germany, a strong Germany side with Neuer, Ozil, Royce, Muller, all those people, last year, 3-3, and none other than Blackburn legend Roque Santa Cruz ended up on the scoreline that night.
That's great stuff. It's nice to hear.
Good to see him putting a goal over Neuer in Germany.
Yeah, I must admit I've got a small soft spot for Paraguay. Obviously Roque Santa Cruz. I know Julio Santa Cruz as well. I know he didn't quite get into the squad, but he was a Paraguayan that came through our youth system as well. And obviously anyone that's late 20s into early 30s, mid 30s even, will remember Chilavert as well, the goalkeeper that just took free kicks and scored free kicks as well. It's just, he was always a fun guy to watch. So if they're on TV, they're definitely one of the, if not, I don't want to say more known, but they kind of get left behind in the media a little bit as a world source. But they're an exciting team to watch, and I enjoy watching them.
Yeah, I agree. And if I remember right, the aforementioned Roque Santa Cruz played this weekend against. Doesn't he? I thought he played for
Malaga.
From Malaga. I couldn't remember if it was Malaga or Valencia, but we did see him on the pitch this weekend for Malaga against Real Madrid.
Yeah, he plays. I think he scored in that match, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm actually going to look that up right now. So, gentlemen.
Yes, he did. Scored against Real Madrid.
So he did score the one goal against Real Madrid.
Yeah, in the last minute.
Yep. Okay. I was gonna say I wasn't sure if he scored it, but I know he played an important role in the match overall.
Yeah, he played all the 90 minutes in the match.
Yeah. So, and you know what? Another person that knows Susie very well that we forgot to mention in that list is Mejito. Mejito Xavier, Lenswa in the USA.
I see. Yes.
He knows her very well, also. So
I'm sure he's listening right now. Actually, I'm sure he enjoyed the they enjoyed the chat. He's one of the show's regular listeners, and he's been there like Bob for ages, and it's nice. It's nice to have regular listens, and we try and touch upon everything now. And I think we've had strong guests from every league, and that's testament to how good the guests have been.
Definitely. So, you know what, guys? Before we kick off our leagues, because normally we start our league coverage with La Liga, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play our pre-recorded interview with Jason Pettigrove from Bleacher Report, and I think that's a great way to kind of lead into our league coverage. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, let's do it. So, this is a pre-recorded interview that we took earlier in the week with Jason Pettigrove.
Sure.
Joining us now on Low Limit Football from Bleacher Report, Jason Pettigrove. Jason, how are you tonight?
I'm very, very well, thank you. Thanks very much indeed for having me on. Really good to be here.
Thank you for taking the time out to come on and chat with us. I'm going to start us off quickly with a couple of Barcelona questions. And the first question is with Barca, do you feel like with the way their season's gone so far, with some success in the Champions League, but kind of stumbled a little bit in La Liga, do you feel that they'll bring home any trophies this season? And if you do, which trophies do you think they'll bring home?
To be honest, I think it's a little bit early to say at the moment. When you say sort of stumbled in the Liga, let's wind it back a little bit and think back to the beginning of the season. They didn't concede a goal for 7 games.
Right.
So to say that they've stumbled is probably a little bit unfair. I mean, the Celta Vigo result was a one-off, but again, if we go back to Pep Guardiola's time, if we remember that at the very beginning of his tenure, he had two sort of freak results at the beginning of his tenure. So I think allowing Enrique to bed down into the role, perhaps judge him a bit more when we get to sort of February, March time. Mm-hmm. In terms of trophies, the Champions League, I think is going to be well beyond them this year. I think if you look at the likes of Real Madrid, I think they've got every chance of becoming the first team to retain the trophy. If we look beyond them, Chelsea are obviously still unbeaten at the moment, looking very, very strong. And I think Bayern Munich will be there or thereabouts. Copa del Rey potentially isn't beyond them. And La Liga, I think, we've got in a few weeks' time the Club World Cup coming up. Mm-hmm. And whilst I don't necessarily agree with that tournament, especially slap bang in the middle of the season, there's a potential for that to derail Real Madrid at a time when they're looking for their 16th win on the spin this coming weekend. Mm-hmm. A fixture pile up, obviously, with them going off to Morocco. Who knows? Barcelona going to the new year just a point or two ahead of them. That they may well stay there, but if you're pinning me down to which trophy they could win, La Liga or Copa del Rey, and that's only again if Madrid take their foot off the gas.
Okay, all right, Ben, I'm going to throw it over to you for a question.
Yeah, hi Jason. Just a question about the team, really. A couple of questions actually about the team. Firstly, do you think Barca are strong enough defensively? And if you don't know, what do you think is needed?
I mean, there's always been a question mark, hasn't there, about them in central defence, more so since Carlos Puyol left the side. I mean, PK quite obviously isn't enjoying his best form at the moment. Mathieu, I think, was a fairly solid purchase. I know there's been sort of issues. Enrique's tended to sort of rotate and not really have the same sort of central back two for more than sort of 2 or 3 games running. I actually think the problem in defence really comes in the fullback areas. I've thought for a long time, and I had this discussion on the TV show I was on last night. Alba and Alves tend to go far too far forward, and whilst there's sort of a reasonable reliance on their speed to get back, I think a lot of people say that the issue is the high ball into the box. But if that high ball into the box was stopped at source, then there wouldn't really be the issue. Yes, Barcelona could do with a central defender in the mould of Puyol, someone who's, more of an old school type defender rather than somebody perhaps who's like the modern day defender that PK was in terms of bringing the ball out from the back. But I would like to see more. This is what I don't understand with Martin Montoya. I mean, he might not be as expansive as Alves going forward, but he's certainly better defensively. And therefore I don't understand quite why he's not even being given a look in at this point.
Okay, sorry, thank you. Another question about one of the players that came in, obviously, Luis Suarez. Just a question to you about how he's outside of football, actually. Do you think Suarez, he's done with his childish antics now? Do you think you'll get any problems with him, or do you think he'll just be the player that, the world-class player that he obviously is?
I think, I hope, we can see by the end of the season that there's a player that, if you believe everything that you read in the press, that Barcelona was always the club that he wanted to end up at. So in some respects that, he could be fairly settled there. His wife was from there. He spent a lot of time sort of in his younger years in Barcelona, just obviously sort of relaxing, enjoying himself. So it's obviously a place he likes to be. In terms of whether we'll see any of the antics that, he's renowned for, he's one of these players, isn't he, that sort of lives his professional life very much on the edge. And there's, is there going to be another tipping? But I don't think you can say he's not going to do it, because we never expected what happened in the World Cup to happen again, given that it's happened twice before. So I think outside of the game, I think, again, from what you hear, from what you see, he's a very lovely guy outside of football, family man, not really too much controversy. On the pitch, he's a totally different player. And it's whether, you get someone that rattles his cage enough to, push him over that edge that's going to... let's be honest, if he strays over that line one more time, that's his career finished. I don't think there's going to be anyone else that will take him, and I think it will be a huge embarrassment for Barcelona if it were to happen. But I don't think you can ever say it's definitely not going to happen. It's just going to be whether a set of circumstances, come together to make it happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'll hand you back over to Joe. I know he's got another question for you.
Jason, I do have another question. I wanted to rewind it back to the defense, because for me, the Barcelona defense has always been an interesting concept, an interesting topic. I think it's one of the things one of the reasons that they didn't win La Liga last year. It's one of the reasons, and it looked to me like they did a lot to strengthen that defense with the addition of Jeremy Mathieu and the person I want to talk about, which is Thomas Vermaelen.
Sure.
Obviously, as of late, I know the TV shows and the pundits in the United States here have made a big deal about the fact that Vermaelen hasn't played a match yet for Barcelona, and now there's word that he may need surgery on, I believe it's his knee, and will probably be out for the entire season.
Yep.
Is this money wasted, or do you think that they will see the benefits of Thomas Vermaelen anytime soon?
You have to say at this point in time, yes, it is money wasted, because the expectation, I think, was that by this point of the season, he would be available for selection. And I think, were he available, I've got not too much doubt that he'd be in the side. Obviously there's been a lot made of his injury problems, over the last few seasons at Arsenal. But the fact is, Thomas Vermaelen was a captain at Arsenal. You don't become a captain at a club like Arsenal if you don't have something about you as a defender. And I think, again, if we're looking at someone that, again, in sort of like the Puyol mode, someone that sort of gets in and about, he's strong in the tackle, he's fairly fearless in many respects. What Vermaelen has, actually, he has all that in his locker, but he also can play a bit as well. So he's sort of a bit of old school, bit of new school. He would slot in that defence absolutely perfectly. Whether we actually get to see that at any point soon is negligible, because, as you've just alluded to, he's going to probably be going off to Finland for this operation, which will likely keep him out until next season. If the transfer ban is lifted on appeal, which I think is unlikely, but if it is lifted, then who's to say Barca don't go out and then spend some more money and bring a defender in by the time he's due back, in which case it then makes his position, if not untenable, you're then going to have quite a few central defenders, and he may find it hard to even get in the team. I don't know. Again, there's were lots of stories in the press at the beginning of the season that the Barcelona doctors didn't actually want Vermaelen to come in because of the injury concerns. And in some respects, I don't blame Zubizarreta, because he was in a lose-lose situation, in my opinion. Marquinhos and anyone else that we appeared to be going after didn't want to come or was too expensive. And obviously, when you look at the situation that the transfer bans are like a year and a half long, he was damned if he didn't buy anybody, because people are going to say to him, well, look, you've got 18 months and you've bought no central defenders. Equally, now he's bought Vermaelen, and unfortunately what's happened. So therefore he looks like he's got egg on his face. But he had to do something. So, I think the situation couldn't really have been foreseen to this extent. I think they knew perhaps the first month or so he may struggle, and obviously needed to get back his fitness. But obviously what's happened now is we've got a huge problem, and it may well end up being a case that they pay that money for him and he never actually plays a game for the club, which will be hugely embarrassing for everybody.
Surely. I'm gonna send you over to Ben for one more question from him.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, just one last question, Jason, and we're going to have Joe to finish. A little bit change of scenery, but I know that you interviewed Carlos Alberto, Brazil's 1970 World Cup winning captain, for anyone that didn't know.
I did.
You said that was your favourite interview. Tell us and the listeners a little bit about that.
No, I mean, it was fantastic. It was just an opportunity. Bizarrely enough, it was a Twitter. Twitter's excellent for sort of getting contacts and stuff, and it was actually his grandson popped up on my Twitter feed, so I thought I'd ask the question. And obviously they said, it was at a time when he'd only just joined Twitter and he was quite amenable to it because the World Cup was coming up. And there's a handful of people within the game that obviously I want to interview people like Lionel Messi if I ever get the chance. But he was very relaxed. What I liked about the interview was that you tend to get interviews with sort of people of higher standing in the game, and they're very sanitised. You're only allowed to ask certain questions. The interview's even pushed in a direction where you, as an interviewer, don't really want it to go. And, the fact is with him, he was very relaxed about answering anything that I put to him, including, some fairly sort of controversial stuff about the World Cup. And he even admitted to me in that interview, which I got a lot of feedback on, was the fact that he, even though he was an ambassador for the World Cup, he actually didn't want it there in the first place. He was persuaded over the course of time that it would be beneficial for the country. But initially, he didn't actually want it either, which I thought was very interesting. Again, captain of probably the best international side ever. And for me, kudos for actually having the interview. It'll be one I look back on, even if my career goes from strength to strength, later on. To have him so early in my sort of journalistic career is just fabulous, and I was really, really delighted that he took the time to allow me to interview him.
Yeah, sounds great. I'll hand you back over to Joe. I know he's got one last question to ask you. Thank you.
I enjoyed the start of that because a lot of what we do here is Twitter based, in terms of our guests, and even you and I getting together to have this interview was Twitter based as well. So it's nice to hear that maybe we're doing it the right way. We just don't realize it. But my I have two more questions left, and then we'll let you go. No interview about Barcelona would be complete without a question on Lionel Messi. So I wanted to ask you about him, and more particularly, there's been a lot of talk lately about the possibility of Messi leaving Barcelona. There's been some rumblings about that. You've even gone on to some of the Twitter feeds and that sort of thing, and you've seen pictures of other jerseys photoshopped onto him. So my question to you is, will Messi ever leave Barcelona, period? Will he ever leave?
Sure. Well, I mean, again, it's one of those things, in general terms, you'd have to say no. He's come out enough times, and his father's come out enough times and said, apart from when he's at the very end of his career, when he wants to go back to Argentina and finish his career with perhaps a season or half a season at Newell's Old Boys, he wants to stay at Barcelona. End of story. Mm-hmm. But there's obviously sets of circumstances that potentially change that, and obviously one of the things is the relationship or lack of a relationship with the current board. Now, obviously, if you go back to when, again, Pep was in charge, Laporta was at the helm, I think there's probably the issue is Messi's top dog. He wants to be top dog. He wants the team to be built around him. Everything has to align and be in place for him to be happy. If he's happy, that's fine. Mm-hmm. There's obviously been things in the last few months that he's not been happy about. And what I think was quite telling is if you saw the videos of him when he had his presentation after he got the record, every time Bartomeu came up on screen and was booed, he looked sort of mildly amused and embarrassed. So I think, there's lots to be read into the situation that can be taken with a pinch of salt. But potentially, if he's not looked after and he's not given what he wants, yes, there could be a situation where someone like Chelsea, Manchester City, PSG, the only teams that could ever afford him, right, that he would go. But I think, as I say, he said enough times himself, he owes a debt of gratitude to Barcelona for what they did for him when he was very young in terms of paying for his growth hormone treatment and everything else. So there's a real nice marriage between him and the club, but some marriages do end in divorce.
That's true. And my last question for you for the evening, we've seen the likes of Munir make the first side and really do very, very well, in my opinion, in the first few matches of the season for Barcelona. And we've seen the likes of Gerard Deulofeu, who's on loan, I believe, right now to Sevilla, who's a fantastic talent, and a nice young talent that is homegrown at La Masia. Who's the next great player to come out of the academy for Barcelona? Who's the person on the horizon that we should all keep our eyes open for? Okay,
well, there's a couple, but I mean the main one is Adama Traore, who people have probably heard of anyway. Mm-hmm. I mean, this guy has it all. He's a right winger, and he's got power, pace, skill. I mean, to watch the guy, he's one of a very select breed of young players who has the ability to get you up off your seat. He just goes past people as though they're not there. Now, I saw him as a 16-year-old when Barcelona played in what was like the youth UEFA Cup. They played against Tottenham at White Hart Lane in 2012. And even then, against some quite more experienced Tottenham players, the pace that he has obviously takes him out of trouble. But you look at him and you don't think that someone of such bulk and such physique can be that quick. Mm-hmm. And allayed to that, the skill, the intelligence of when to play the pass. And I mean, there's a difference again between him and Deulofeu. I mean, obviously Deulofeu doesn't have the same physique, but he has the pace, where Deulofeu, I think, has a problem, which I would think that Enrique's identified, having sent him on loan, is he often doesn't know when to play the pass. He wants to beat the player and then beat them again, and then just for good measure beat them again when there's a simple pass on. And that's why I think Munir has obviously risen up through the ranks just as quickly, because Adama, I think 80% of Munir's goals in the youth side came via Traore. So I think probably next season, or certainly by the start of the following one, he's going to be in the first team. The other one who I think we're going to see a lot of is Alan Halilovic. Unfairly dubbed the Croatian Messi, but you can see why people have done that, because he's got a very sort of languid, relaxed style of play, but very skillful on the ball. For somebody that's so young, very confident, lovely way of pass. And I think those two, I mean, there may be one or two others that come behind. Obviously, Sandro Ramirez has had a couple of games already for the first team. Definitely those two will make the step up shortly, and probably coming on behind them, there's one or two others. But if you put me on the spot for one in particular, Adama Traore.
Okay, fantastic. Jason Pettigrove, Bleacher Report, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks very much indeed, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Jason. It's nice talking to you.
And that was our pre-recorded interview with Jason Pettigrove from Bleacher Report, guys. Again, fantastic insight into everything Barcelona. I also like the story about how we got the interview through the Twitter link, which was kind of neat. So, Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting talking to him. He's obviously a big Barcelona fan, knows a lot about Barcelona. But yeah, I did think that was quite an interesting fact when I was doing my little bit of research before he came on, before we did the pre-recorded interview. I just thought it was really interesting. He got to speak to a World Cup winning captain. I mean, you don't get, not too many people get a chance to do that in their lives, and you can tell that it was his favourite moment. And when he speaks about it, he spoke about it with real passion. And I thought we would do, and that's one of my favourite questions to ask him. Really, I know it's nice to talk all about current football, but when something means not only that much to them, but I mean, on a world footballing term, that is huge. And and he was a great guest and very knowledgeable about La Liga.
Agreed. So, Rob, I'm going to throw it over to you because, with all these guests, we've been kind of sidetracked from what we normally do, which is our league coverage. So why don't you take us over to La Liga and let us know what happened this weekend?
Yes, I shall. All right. To start things off, on Friday, we had Real Sociedad, the Real Sociedad of none other than the chosen one by Sir Alex Ferguson, David Moyes. 3-0 win in San Sebastian against Elche.
It's Spanish, David Moyes.
What? Exact. Okay, I'll pronounce it in the Spanish accent if I have to. David Moyes. David Moyes. Okay, 3-0 victory, getting his first win for Real Sociedad. Still unbeaten, by the way. So, Athletic Bilbao 2-1 against the Getafe on Saturday. Espanyol 2-1 against Levante. The unmentioned Malaga and Real Madrid match 2-1 in Malaga, courtesy of Karim Benzema and Gareth Bale. And the goal for Malaga is none other than Roque Santa Cruz in the last minute. Eibar getting their first win in the last 5 matches. 1-0 against Celta Vigo. And this Celta Vigo team was the one that beat Barcelona a few weeks ago. So if you think about it, Eibar might be better than Barcelona, no?
For anyone listening that doesn't understand why he's going about, Eibar is the low-limit football team, that and Santa Claus FC, but Eibar is our team from the Liga, yeah. Go on, Rob, just tell them a little bit about Eibar, just give them a 5-second spiel.
Basically, Eibar was a second division team that got promoted last season, and they were very close to not even getting to the La Liga because of money. But this is a team that are playing in the northern part of Spain, and their stadium which is only the capacity of about 5,000 people, which, if you think about it, maybe a League 2, third tier or fourth tier stadium is big, longer than the La Liga one. Has more seats than the La Liga one. All right, Ben.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. It's 5,000, and it's in a valley, I believe, as well, isn't it? Rob, between so it's quite secluded. So yeah, I mean they are small as small can get, and I just figured they needed 3 more fans, so we jumped on board.
Exactly. Sunday, Atletico Madrid 2-0 against Deportivo de La Coruña. Sevilla 5-1 win against Granada. Cordoba losing 2-0 to Villarreal. And the match of the day and the match of the week that I mentioned, Barcelona 1-0 against Valencia in Valencia, courtesy of a last-minute goal from Sergio Busquets in the 93rd minute of the match.
And I might add that you got that prediction exactly right with the 2-1 call.
It was 1-0.
I'm sorry, 1-0. No, never mind. I said that. Move along.
It's fine. Well, by one goal, I guess. I could say I sort of got it right.
But I had one of those earlier, and I wanted to say I got it right, and then I couldn't.
And to wrap up today, Rayo Vallecano 1-0 against Almeria. As the table stand, Real Madrid still currently in first place with 33 points. In second, Barcelona with 31 points. In third, Atletico Madrid with 29 points. In fourth, Sevilla with 26 points. In fifth, Valencia with 24 points. In sixth, Malaga with 21 points. And to mention Eibar, they are with this win, they move up to 16 points and are currently 11th in the league. The match of the week for next week, I am going to choose none other than the Catalan Derby, Barcelona against Espanyol on Sunday.
And who do you got for winner?
I'm going to say 2-1 Barcelona for this one.
All right. So let's head over to Ligue 1, which I was just trying to pick my match of the week as we were talking. We'll go through the last week's scores, and then we'll come up to the scores and tables. So last week on Friday, Marseille 2-0 over Nantes. On Saturday, PSG 1-0 over Nice. Reims 2-1 over Bastia. Rennes 2-0 over Monaco. Lorient 3-2 over Toulouse. Caen and Montpellier played to a 1-1 draw. Lens 2-0 over Metz. And on Sunday, Bordeaux 1-0 over Lille. Evian 2-0 over Guingamp. Saint-Etienne over Lyon. And I thought we did have a match today, but we don't. We have matches actually coming up tomorrow. So, heading to the tables, Marseille still on top, leading the way. They're on 34 points. This is after 15 matches played. PSG right behind them on 33 points. Then Lyon and Bordeaux on 27 each. Saint-Etienne on 26 points. Rennes on 25. Nantes on 24. Reims on 22 points. Montpellier on 21. And in 10th place, Monaco on 20 points. Propping up the bottom of the table, we have Guingamp on 12 points, losers of 3 straight. Bastia on 14, along with Lens and Caen. Caen currently sitting outside the relegation zone based on a -2 goal differential. Evian, Lorient, and Lille tied for 14th, 15th, and 16th on 16 points. Toulouse is in 13th on 17 points. And the rest of the bottom half of the table, Nice and Metz on 18 points each, with Metz losing their last 3 matches. So scanning through, I didn't see anything that particularly attracted my attention. So I'm going to go with the PSG Nantes match on Saturday. We do have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday matches in this league, and then we have matches every week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I'm going to take the PSG Nantes match for Saturday, December 6th. This is going to be played in the Parc des Princes. I'm going to take PSG, who's really looking great right now, to win this one 3-0. I'm going to go with a big score there, 3-0 for PSG. So that's going to do it for Ligue 1. I'm going to just write that down real quick because I'm going to run us over. We already did the Bundesliga. So we're going to head on over to Italy, which we were going to do prior to Susie coming on, but we did change up things a little bit. So in the Serie A, last week when we last left, Sassuolo 2-1 over Verona. And again, Sassuolo's actually, I believe they've won 3 or 4 straight. They've moved themselves to 9th in the table. They're actually undefeated in their last 6, 4 wins and 2 draws. Chievo and Lazio played to a 0-0 draw on Sunday. Empoli and Atalanta to a 0-0 draw. AC Milan beat Udinese 2-0 on 2 Jeremy Menez goals. And like we had mentioned with David Amoyal earlier, the return of Ricardo Montalivo, which was nice to see. Palermo 2-1 over Parma. Fiorentina 4-0 over Cagliari, and they really that match wasn't even nearly as close as that scoreline indicates. Genoa 3-0 over Cesena, Juventus 2-1 over Torino, and Roma 4-2 over Inter. In the match of the week, which was played earlier today, which we actually chatted about with David Amoyal, I did get this one wrong, gentlemen. Sampdoria 1-1 draw with Napoli on a late goal in this one. I forgot who scored the goal. It was Zapata, Christian Zapata, scoring for Napoli, I believe, in the 90th minute. I'm sorry, it was in the 91st minute to take away the victory from Sassuolo, a team that's really, like we had said, been a pleasant surprise lately for the Serie A. So going into the standings for this league, we currently have Juventus still leading the way on 34 points, Roma on 31 points. Then Napoli and Genoa tied for third with 23 points. That Genoa side, if I remember correctly, last year was in danger of relegation. Now they're playing very, very well. Sampdoria in 5th place in the last Europa spot on 22. Then just outside, AC Milan in 6th on 21 points. Lazio in 7th on 20 points. Fiorentina in 8th place on 19 points. And Sassuolo and Udinese tied for 9th on 18 points. Propping up the bottom of the table, Parma on 6 points, losers of 5 of their last 6. Cesena on 8 points, Chievo on 10 points. Outside the relegation zone, we have Cagliari on 11, Atalanta on 11 points, Torino moving up into 15th place on 12 points, Empoli on 14 points, tied with Verona in 13th place, and in 11th and 12th, we have Palermo and Inter tied on 17 points apiece. So that does it for our tables. This one, in terms of the match of the week, is going to be a pretty easy one. Fiorentina versus Juventus is being played on Friday. That is in Florence. But this Juventus side is playing so well, it's hard to pick against them. I'm going to take Juve in a 2-1 victory on this one. I think Fiorentina put in a fantastic result the week prior, but this Juve side, they're the class of the league, and I really don't think anybody can beat them. So I'll take Fiorentina to lose this match 2-1 to Juventus at home. So, Ben, take us into the Premier League and let us know what happened this weekend.
Yep, Saturday and Sunday fixtures in the Premier League. We're going to review one of the Sunday games. But to start us off on Saturday, we had West Brom losing 1-0 at home to Arsenal. We had West Ham beating Newcastle 1-0. Newcastle going down to 10. Swansea and Crystal Palace drawing 1-1. Burnley drawing 1-1 at home to Aston Villa. Liverpool finally getting back to winning ways, beating Stoke 1-0 at home. Manchester United winning 3-0 at home to Hull. Queen's Park Rangers beating Leicester 3-2 at home. We had Sunderland drawing 0-0 at Chelsea. Going into the Sunday, we had Southampton losing 3-0 at home to Manchester City, and Manchester City going down to 10 men, but still scoring 2 goals after that and convincingly beating a Southampton team that were in second place at that point in time. We'll talk a little bit about Man City later. But the game of the day, the game that I previewed, was the Tottenham-Everton game at White Hart Lane. I did say 1-1 in this game. I did think it was going to be close. It was close, but it finished 2-1 to Tottenham. As far as the stats go, 13 shots for Tottenham, 6 on target, 10 shots for Everton, 5 on target. But Everton with the lion's share of the possession at 61%. As far as Tottenham go, I mean, Mauricio Pochettino, isn't really fulfilled expectations for me since he took over. And 4 defeats, from 6 league games actually at home. Obviously the pressure was up. They needed to do something here. They definitely needed to get a result for me. And it was a really miserable record. And it looked like it was going to be worse when Morales curled home early on. It was a good finish if you get a chance to see it. And you kind of thought that it would be really easy for Tottenham to collapse there, but they didn't. They responded quite impressively, really, and managed to eke out an error win. Christian Eriksen and Soldado actually with the goal. And ironically, £26 million Soldado cost, and that was his first goal in 593 minutes. So he definitely needs to go on a bit of run if Tottenham are going to make any run at any European place for me this season. But like I said, this was a really good performance actually by the Tottenham team, and from the Pochettino era. As far as the game went, Everton looked better in the early stages, and then but after the Tottenham equaliser, it was all Tottenham. It really was. Up until the last 20 minutes when Everton came back in the game and looked to equalise. But like I said, it did go back and forth, and in the last 20 minutes, it really was all Everton. But a very close game. It really could have gone either way. But just a little bit more creativity in the Tottenham team, which is something we haven't really seen this season, and it was nice to see because, I honestly do believe that, that fourth spot's still up for grabs, and I do think there's a lot of teams fighting for Europa as well, so they really needed to do something, and they looked a bit more creative than Everton in this game, and I think that's definitely what proved to be the difference. But like I said, poor start for the season before this for Tottenham and fell to flat on many occasions. But now, they're only sitting 2 points away from the top four. And, if they can find some form, they'll be contenders for a wide open Champions League race, the top four. But like I said, definitely they would like to get at least Europa this season. Just have a run through the league quickly, top and bottom, and then I'll preview the game for next week. Chelsea leading the way, top of the league, 33 points. Manchester City in second place now with 27 points, 6 points adrift. And then we have Southampton in third, 1 point below Manchester City. And Manchester United still in the fourth Champions League place on 22 points. And then we go to West Ham in fifth on 21, and Arsenal and then Tottenham both on 20. And then we have Swansea and Newcastle both back on 19 points, and Everton slipping down to 10th and are now 5 points adrift of the Champions League places. As far as the bottom goes, we have all three promoted teams from last year in the bottom three. Leicester propping up the division on 10 points, losing 5 of the last 6. Then Burnley in 19th place on 11 points, and then Queen's Park Rangers also on 11 in 18th place on goal difference, and then Hull just above them also on 11, but with a better goal difference than Queen's Park Rangers. And then we have 3 teams above them on 13, Aston Villa, West Brom and Crystal Palace. As far as my preview game of the week goes, it's going to be the London Derby. It's Chelsea-Tottenham at Stamford Bridge. This is actually on Wednesday. There's Tuesday and Wednesday games this week, as well as Saturday and Sunday, but this for me is the best game of the 2 days. Like I said, Chelsea 6 points clear, Tottenham 2 points adrift to Champions League places. For me, Chelsea is still the most complete team in the division for me, and I think they are quite rightly at this moment in time favourites for the title. But although Tottenham, are close to Champions League places, I don't think they're going to have enough to make the Champions League this year. I do think there's a lot of teams pushing for that, and I just think that apart from this last game that we just spoke about against Everton, they're just lacking a little bit up front at the moment, and you can't help but feel if they're going to go to Stamford Bridge, they're going to need, to defend really well and have a ton of creativity, and I just don't quite see them having that really. But being a derby, they're always going to be up for this Tottenham, and but you got to think for them to get something out of it, it's going to be a real uphill task. And I just think it's going to be a bit too much for them, and I do think they'll fall short. But without being embarrassed, so I'm going to say Chelsea to win this 1-2-0.
So, yeah, it was kind of surprising to see them draw. I believe, if I saw the stat correctly, or if I heard the stat correctly, this is the first time this season that Chelsea were held goalless in a league match. So, maybe it's the slip-up that City needs for them to come back to earth. Maybe it's the start of something good for City, I guess. I don't know. And I'm sure SirBob in the chat and Joey Essex, it seems, is hoping for that as well. So, that'll do it for our league coverage tonight. We obviously still have Champions League and Europa League matches to kind of chat about. So I don't know which one of you gentlemen wanted to talk Champions League, but which one of you wants to talk Champions League?
I don't mind doing it this week, Rob. Take it.
All right. And then, Rob, you want to do the Europa?
Yeah, sure. I'll do Europa.
Awesome. Rob, hit the Champions
It's just because I did a little bit of a preview for Man City, and I know that SirBob waits patiently for this, and I know we're not really talking Man City in the corner, so I figured we'd do it a little bit in the Champions League. But firstly, let me run through the results, and then we'll go to the Man City Bayern game after we've gone through the results.
All right, go for it.
Yeah, okay, just give me 2 seconds to let the page reload. There we go. Okay, on Tuesday, we had Bate Borisov losing 3-0 at home to FC Porto. We had CSKA drawing 1-1 at home to Roma. We had Shakhtar Donetsk losing 1-0 at home to Athletic Club. And Sporting beating Maribor 3-1 at home. We had Schalke losing 5-0 at home to Chelsea. And we had Alpol Nicosia losing 4-0 at home to Barcelona with a sending off a piece even. We had PSG beating Ajax 3-1. And then the last game on Tuesday was the game that I wanted to talk about just quickly. The Man City 3-2 win. We did touch upon it. I know I was talking a little bit about it in chat. We was talking about Aguero. Bayern, they did have 10 men from the 20th minute. And, for me, if I'm going to be absolutely neutral, I did think that Bayern looked a little bit of the better team, even with 10 men. But the two important things I think you can take from this game, especially from a Man City point of view, but even as a neutral looking in, was firstly the fact that Aguero was world class in this game, and he has been. That's a given. But you need him to be on this kind of form if they're going to challenge on all fronts. And I think, this Man City team, at very least, are going to be looking at the Premier League. And they want to make a bit of a run in the Champions League as well. You just kind of feel a team with this much quality, it needs to get out of this group. And, obviously they've done a lot to do that, And I think something that you saw in this was the heart of the Man City team. They're 2-1 down, 5 minutes to go. It would be very easy for them to, shrug their shoulders and be downhearted. They're a bit depressed, but they didn't. They kept going, and I haven't really seen them do that this season. It was something a little bit different to see, a bit of a never say die attitude, which was regardless of form. And you could see it in the players. They looked like they really wanted to pick up the points. They knew that if they didn't get something from this game, they were all but out. And when you do that, not only do you give yourself a chance to get results like you do them, but you kind of instill that kind of fear into teams going into future games that we're never going to sit down, we're never going to say die, and no doubt that helped them going into the Premier League game as well. But and that's what I mean. And they followed that up with a 3-0 win at Southampton as well. And I think these two results together is a bit of a statement of intent. And like Joe said, it's helped them in the Premier League as well. By doing this as well, I think that they've shown that they can, going to take it into the last game, which is what, we thought that they would take it into the last game, but taking it into the last game with a win means that now there's 3 teams on 5 points. It's going to go down to that Roma game in Italy, and I guarantee you now that this Roma team, is going to be genuinely worried about this Man City team. Not only is Aguero in form, but it seems that Man City are a little bit as well. So it's, great back to wins, and you never know, a run of form, you can put some serious pressure on this Chelsea team. And not only that, you can put some pressure on the teams in the Champions League, and kind of say, we're here and we've got a chance. And no one to say that this Man City team, can't make a run in this Champions League. I don't think they're going to have enough to win the Champions League, in all honesty. But there's no reason why they can't get into the last 4 for me if they get a decent draw. And the other game in the Champions League I just wanted to touch upon quickly was Chelsea beating Schalke 5-0 in Germany. I don't think any of us, Rob or Joe, accepted that you're just going to go to Germany against a decent Schalke team and thrash them 5-0. Just quickly, Rob and Joe, don't want to spend too much on it, but Chelsea have got to be real contenders for the Champions League. Don't you think, guys?
Yes, I do believe that.
I was going to say, I was going to take this one. If you remember when we had Ian Joy on a few weeks ago, he asked me to pick a winner of the Champions League, and I told him, for some reason, felt like Chelsea. So
it's kind of but it kind of, for me, I kind of feel a little bit. I don't want to say sorry for Man City because that's not the right word, but this Chelsea team are just so good at the moment. You can't help but feel that even this Man City team, how they're playing at this very moment in time, would have enough to win this Premier League in years gone past. But it just feels like this Chelsea team they've really stepped it up this year. I think Fabregas and Costa as well. It kind of seems like they're the last cogs, but they really do look a force at the moment. And I really do think that they're going to take some kind of stopping. And you can't help but think, no disrespect to Man City, but you can't help but think you give this Chelsea team 6 points lead, and it's near enough. I don't want to say untenable because there's another game, but it's very, very uphill just because, not because of the points difference, but just how good have Chelsea been. The only team, unbeaten as well, Joe. It's going to be tough, more so as much as how good Chelsea have been, don't you think, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. No doubt about it.
But I mean, on a view for the Premier League, like we was talking earlier, what divisions deserve as many spots. Well, we're seeing right here, this Man City team in a tough group. I mean, Bayern Munich, Roma to get in a group, that's really unfortunate to get that group. But they're still fighting back. They're beating, for me, still one of the best teams in the world, if not the best team in the world. They defeated them. They're giving them a real chance. And then on the other end of the coin, we've got a Chelsea team that is smashing the Premier League and going to Schalke and beating them 5-0. And I think it's more than deserved, should we say? I know he said you shouldn't use the word deserved, but I think it thoroughly proves that there's a lot of quality in England, and the Premier League top 4 is very, very strong in comparison. I'm just going to run through the Wednesday games, cover off the rest of the results. We had Zenit St. Petersburg beating Benfica 1-0, Benfica going down to 10 men. We had Arsenal beating Borussia Dortmund 2-0 at home. Anderlecht beating Galatasaray 2-0, Galatasaray with a man being sent off as well. Bayer Leverkusen losing 1-0 at home to Monaco. Basel losing 1-0 at home to Real Madrid. We had Ludogorets drawing 2-2 with Liverpool. Malmo losing 2-0 at home to Juventus, once again with 10 men, and Atletico Madrid beating Olympiacos 4-0. And we're looking forward to the last match there, guys. And hopefully we want to see a good result in Italy, because it'd be nice to see three English teams to really go through, and it would be nice for them to go through and get a decent draw for English team did. And what do you think, Joe? I mean, like, we was talking about how many spots they deserve. I mean, you look at this team. I mean, Liverpool. I mean, even Liverpool can still go through. I mean, it's just they've been really, really poor. But if Liverpool managed to, gain some form and get out of the group, Joe, it's 4 English teams from the 4 spots. It almost feels like you should take one out of Germany and give it to England.
Yeah, I think the argument could be made, but then what you want to do is you want to look at who that team would be versus versus who you would be getting.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, I'm not saying it just makes you think. Like, you look at these teams and you think, I mean, just we'll take Arsenal for the we spoke about Chelsea and we spoke about Man City, but even if you take this Arsenal team is for me, they're probably going to finish 3rd this year, because I think that they are, after the top 2, they are the best team in England. And a lot of creativity there, and I do think they have improved. And they're still only the 3rd best team in England. And if you pick all the 3rd teams from throughout the countries, it just seems to me that there's a lot of strength there. And I don't know about you, Joe, but I'm really intrigued to see the draw coming out. I can't wait for the last game to see the draw and what that pulls out. But no doubt, the most important game of the last game of the Champions League, the 6th game in the groups, is the Roma Man City game. Just while we're talking Champions League, guys, I'm just going to get a prediction for you from the Roma Man City at Roma, just before we go over to the Europa League. And Rob, since we're going over to Rob next, I'll let Rob take the first prediction.
Go ahead.
Roma against Manchester City. Well, I just have actually a question on that. What happens if it's a draw?
I was just going to go look at that.
What happens if it's a draw? Just out of curiosity.
Do you know, I was looking at this earlier, and it's they're doing it. Sorry, they're doing it on the games, right? Because Man City have actually got the best goal difference of the 3 teams.
Yes.
And at the moment they're bottom of the group, which says to me it must be the versus. Bob's saying that. Yeah, so it's going on games against. So
Manchester City tied Roma in the first match in Manchester.
Yeah. This is the thing. This is another thing that I don't quite understand, because surely CSKA. Anyway, they must have been CSKA must have got a result of Roma. I assume.
Roma beat CSKA Moscow 5-1 in Rome.
Yeah. So, do you know what it is? I think the reason why they're below Roma is because Manchester City drew at home to Roma, so Roma got a result away. I think that's what it is. The draw counts more away, so that's why Roma are above them. Which, to me, I've said this for years, I think that the head-to-head results is silly. It's always been goal difference for me. I just think it's a fairer way of doing this. But to answer your question, Rob, if they do draw, then obviously they need CSKA to lose to Bayern. But we'll get a prediction from you, Rob, and then do you think Man City will go through after?
As much as I think this could happen, I'm going to say 2-2 draw in Rome and Bayern to win in Moscow. And do they go through?
Yeah, they'll go through if that happens. Yeah.
Yes, they go through. Manchester City go through. Because I believe they have their ever since the game match against Bayern Munich, I feel that their confidence is on a very high point, which I believe is going to help them given these next 2 matches that they have in the Premier League, and if they do well in those results. Obviously, they have Everton on Saturday. Sorry, and the midweek match against who? If you remember.
I just closed it just as you said that.
No, it's fine. I'll check it. Oh, they got Sunderland. Okay.
So
yeah, if these 2 results do perform well, if they get the wins, they're obviously going to have really high confidence going into that match against Roma. So I do believe that Manchester City goes through the draw 2-2.
Okay, and Joe?
I was going to take the same thing, but 1-1 instead. And I also have the listing of the tiebreakers for the Champions League. So if you want me to run through them.
Yep, go for it.
First one, obviously, is higher number of points. Duh. Okay. Second one is superior goal difference from the group matches played among the teams in question. So you have to go back to that first result in Rome.
1-1.
Which was it 1-1 between
1-1 in Rome, yes.
Okay, so the first draw was in Rome.
So if it's 1-1, if it's
I'm sorry, it was 1-1 in City. 1-1 in City.
Yeah.
In Manchester.
Which surely means that if Manchester City get a 2-2 draw, they go above Roma.
Yep.
Let me see here. For some reason, I've frozen.
Yeah.
Here. Okay. So now, so the third difference is higher number of goals scored in the group matches played among the teams in question. So that would go away because if they draw, they would have the same amount of goals scored against the teams in question. So now you go to the next one. Higher number of goals scored away from home in the group matches played amongst the teams in question. So what that tells me is that if City draw 2-2, City would go through, but if they draw 1-1, then you have to go on even further. Okay? Higher number of goals scored away from home in the group matches played in the team in question. Okay. If after applying criteria 1 through 4 to several teams, no two teams still have equal ranking, the criteria 1 to 4 reapply.
Joe, sorry, just before you said that, is it on goal difference after head-to-head?
Let's see here.
Is it goals scored?
Sixth tiebreaker is superior goal difference from all group matches played. That's the sixth.
So Man City have got the goal difference, haven't they? So
they do. So
because against Bayern they had.
So the way I read the rules here, it would have to be for City to go through on a draw. It would have to be a 2-2 draw.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For Roma,
because then even if CSK and Moscow lose, then they would finish third. As far as the results go, I think that it's going to be really close. And I think the Bayern Munich game's going to be really close. And this for me is going to be the group that everyone's going to be keeping their eyes on. But like I said, I can actually see Man City even beating Roma in Italy. I think it's going to be, I think they've got some form on there. I think Navas looked awesome the other day. Obviously, Aguero's in great form. I think it's going to be close. I want to say a draw, but I do think Man City are going to win. So I'm going to say Man City to win 2-1, and I do think Man City will go through. But if Bayern beat CSK, then no doubt there's going to be a lot of fans in the crowd with their radios on, listening to the Bayern Roma game, and that kind of it's reminiscent of old days. I don't know if you've ever been to a game where you've done that, but I have personally, and it's it's silly. People are not watching the game; they're watching the guy on the radio, and it's brilliant. It's great. It's great football atmosphere. But
I think they did that when City won the league a few years ago.
Yeah. But to answer your question, I'm going to say Man City to win 2-1. And I'm going to say Bayern to beat CSK, so I'm going to say Man City to go through.
I think what's also weird about this... Sorry, Ben, I just wanted to mention this.
Yeah, go.
I think what's weird about that same day, it's going to be Barcelona against PSG, which also could define the group.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's what I mean. There's another big game there as well, because obviously, we're forgetting, like you said, Rob, the value of going through as the first place seed.
Yeah,
as well. Well, yeah, I mean, if Bayern Munich, if Barcelona go through second, then, Barcelona could be drawn against Bayern Munich in the next round. And then, it's kind of, we could see some, massive games in the last 16. So it's kind of, it's going to be really exciting. And I think it's going to be awesome to watch. And, but thankfully for SirBob, we've all said Man City to go through, and hopefully they do, because it's nice to report on English teams, and we want Man City to come out of the group, but it's as close as we thought it would be, guys. We focused this as a group of death, and it's turned out to be that way, really. I mean, all 4 teams potentially with a chance to go through, and I don't suppose that's too surprising, but. Either way, we're going to lose a world-class team from this group, and but that's how it goes. We'll go over to Rob then now, and you can go through the Europa League.
Yes, we shall. To start off Europa League, we had a few matches on Thanksgiving Day. We had Dynamo Moscow 2-1 against Panathinaikos, Krasnodar tying Lille 1-1. Everton 2-0 against Wolfsburg in Germany, which I think was the big result today. Slovan Bratislava losing 3-1 to Young Boys. Sparta Praha 0-0 against Napoli. 1-0 for AAB. I'm thinking that's Denmark. Yes, Denmark. 1-0 against Star Bucharest. Dynamo Kiev 2-0 against Rio Ave. PAOK against 2-0 against Dinamo Minsk. Fiorentina 2-1 against Guingamp. From one of the goals that I think Susie mentioned before was from the unfortunate Marco Marin. Trabzonspor 3-1 against Metalist. Lokeren of Greece 1-0 against Legia Warsaw. Rijek 2-0 against St. Liege. Feyenoord 2-0 against the defending champion Sevilla. Inter Milan 2-1 against Dnipro. Saint Etienne 1-1 draw against Qarabag. Villarreal 2-2 draw against Borussia Mönchengladbach. 3-1 Zurich against Apollon. Torino 0-0 draw against Club Brugge. HJK 2-1 against Copenhagen. Spurs 1-0 against Partizan. Besiktas 2-2 draw against Asteras. Salzburg 3-1 against Celtic. Astros 1-0 against Dinamo Zagreb. And 3-3 draw PSV against Estoril of Portugal. Want to give me a match of the week?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go.
Okay. I'm just gonna be I think the match of the week for me, it's going to be, which is not this week. It's the week after. After, yes. Besiktas against Spurs. I think that's gonna be the match of the week. Obviously, Spurs are trying to get back into form, following their victories in Europa and league, and Besiktas are a good team in the Turkish league, so should be really interesting to watch.
Just to say to you guys, just before we move on from the Europa League, obviously, like you said, Rob, the Everton win is a great result for Everton. And the interesting thing about this, I know we keep talking about the Bundesliga, is Wolfsburg. This is the second best team in Germany at the moment, and Everton, who are currently 10th in the Premier League, went to Wolfsburg and have beaten 2-0. Everton now joint second favourites before the Champions League teams come in to the group. I just wanted to ask you both, really, are Everton genuine contenders for this trophy? Do you think that Everton have got a chance to win this? I'll ask you first, Rob.
Yeah, Rob, you go first.
To win Europa League?
Yeah.
I think they're going to go very far in the tournament. To win the entire tournament, no. I'm going to be honest, no. I don't think it's probably going to happen because you're going to be dealing with other big teams like Inter or Sevilla or I don't know who else could be, Feyenoord, PSV, etc. So it might be interesting. And also, I understand Everton has the experience at being in Europa, but to win it all, I think, given the results that they have to do well and focus on making it top 5 or 6 in the Premier League, will probably sidetrack them a bit. But yeah, I can see them going very far, but to win the whole tournament, it's a little too early, but I'm going to say no.
Just before we go to what Joe thinks, the interesting thing for me about this is, you look at the Premier League and where the Premier League will be in, say, when we get to, because I agree with you, Rob. They should be in the last 8. So say we get to last 8, which I'm not sure exactly when that is, but probably going to be late January, early February. That's going to be like another 10, 12 games from now in the Premier League. If Everton are adrift in the Premier League like they are now in 10 or 12 games, do you, to both of you really, do you think they're going to look at this and say, well, hold on a minute, there's a Champions League place up for grabs if we win the Europa League, and we might be, and they might be too far adrift, or they might look up and think, oh wow, there's a big difference. Man United, Arsenal, Southampton, they've opened up a gap. This is going to be hard to close against them. This Europa League could be a genuine shot for us to get into the Champions League. Do you think they might think like that, Rob?
Yeah, I honestly do believe that. Because they really want to focus on making the Champions League.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to add one caveat. It's going to depend later on in the season where they stand in the table. If there's a distinct situation where they could end up losing a few matches and be facing relegation, then no. Then I think they forego the Champions League and they just focus on their league play. But if they're 10th, if they're 11th, if they're 9th in the table, then they definitely turn it on and focus on this Europa League because they get that Champions League position no matter what. I think that's going to be the case. It's going to depend on where in the season they are and where they are in the table. That's going to indicate whether they put all their eggs in the Europa League basket or they pull back and decide to just play, for the table.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I agree with you both. Really, I think I agree with Rob to an extent. There's going to be some, there's going to be some really, really good teams. I mean, even just looking, at Tottenham that are in at the moment, but I think they're going to be there or thereabouts, because the teams that are going to come out of the Champions League, they are tough. They are really tough. But this is a decent Everton team, but more so is the form of Lukaku. I think that Lukaku is just playing so well. Nearly every single game he's up there with the best performance for Everton. A lot of man of the match displays. He's scoring a lot of goals, and he seems to be enjoying his football at Everton. He really does. And when it gets into the deeper stages, and for all intents and purposes, I think Everton will be there, and I think we all do really. Lukaku for me is going to be one of the strikers, one of the better strikers left in the competition. He's really strong. He showed that he could do it at Chelsea, and if he can do it at Chelsea and he can do it at that standard, then for me he's going to be able to do it at the Europa League standard, even in the later stages. And I think Lukaku's going to give him a real good shot at being a dark horse in the Europa League. And I think that they are worthy of dark horses. I really do. I would say definitely last 8, and if they get a decent draw and they go into the last 4, a bit of form. You never know. It's a knockout competition, and like I said, bit of form behind them. I think it's going to be interesting. It's just something that I wanted to pick out because we haven't really spoke that much about Everton. They're not really doing much in the Premier League, but they're kind of making keeping themselves under the radar, and I think it'll be really interesting when the draw comes out after the group's finished. I think that will really be interesting for Everton and for Tottenham.
I'm going to just throw in that a team that I think we haven't talked about, and of course I'm being a little bit of a homer, but guys, this Fiorentina side, although their group was a little weak with Guingamp, PAOK, and Dinamo Minsk, only given up 2 goals so far, 4 wins, 1 draw. Their last match is against Dinamo Minsk, which they should easily win. And this is a team that's playing very, very well. They're also playing very well at home in the Serie A. So I think they're a team that you could worry about. The other one, I would worry about Inter. Inter with Roberto Mancini. Mancini's been in these European competitions before. He knows what it takes to win. He could easily turn this team. This Inter side is along the same lines as Everton. Mid-table, not doing much, no hope of winning the league. Do they focus on this and move forward? You heard David earlier say that these Italian sides like Inter, like Napoli, like Fiorentina are starting to focus on this Europa League because there is the guaranteed victory, the guaranteed Champions League spot moving through. So, you can't count out a couple of these better than average Italian sides.
I think, sorry Joe, but if you're talking Italian teams, then Napoli as well, surely.
Yeah.
Just to give you the odds, just so you can see at the moment, it's Napoli and Tottenham. From the teams that are there at the moment, it's Napoli and Tottenham, and Tottenham, and then it's Everton and Inter. So, all the teams we're speaking about is back, and then Sevilla in 5th as well. Sevilla, a good team. I just think that this is a very hard competition to predict, and there's a lot of teams around that kind of similar skill level, and that's why a lot of people kind of look over the Europa League, and compared to the Champions League is, I don't want to say a smaller trophy, but it kind of is the Championship of Europe, whatever you want to call it. Championship is in below the Premier League, not Championship, but and I just think it's really, really a good competition to win when it gets in to the last 4, last 8, last 4, and it's exciting football to watch because usually there's a lot of good teams left, and
absolutely,
it's very unpredictable. It really is, and I think all of those teams that were mentioned would be dark horses.
You've also got to remember this competition is going to pick up those 3rd place sides from the Champions League, so you're going to get an influx of excellent sides here as well. So,
yeah.
So, all right, let's that'll close out our European League competitions. let's head over, Ben. Why don't you take us into what Blackburn did this week?
Okay, yeah, we're going to go over to the Blackburn Banter. I did this because I saw this earlier and I had to I have to put this in the chat just because I don't really get much chance to talk about Blackburn, so I'm going to paste this in. Let me just tell you where it's up to. I think it's 3 minutes 09 because I don't want you guys watching all of this because you've obviously got lives. But I think it's 3 minutes 09. I think that's when it starts. But it's basically the cross comes in and it's the Blackburn keeper that makes the save. But they're saying it's one of the saves of the season. So if you get a chance whilst I'm talking, then just go and have a look at it. But it was Blackburn Middlesbrough at Middlesbrough at the Riverside. Obviously Middlesbrough was second when we played this game, and our goalkeeper is on loan from Middlesbrough, so he couldn't play. And our right winger Tom Kearney, who was one of our most influential players last season, was suspended. He hadn't been as great this season, but he was still out. So away from home against Middlesbrough, I definitely would have took a draw. It did finish 1-1, and Blackburn actually equalised 3 minutes into injury time. It is controversial. It was. I know that the news point was that it was a controversial goal, and it really was. The cross comes in, Blackburn striker gets up, and he doesn't jump into the goalkeeper, but he stands his ground. The goalkeeper kind of jumps into him, and because the striker's stronger, the goalkeeper just goes down. And it's definitely 50-50. And I think with how much keepers are protected nowadays, I could definitely see it be given as a foul. But it wasn't, and it dropped to Rudiger Stead, and Rudiger Stead knocked the ball in. But as far as the game goes, it was pretty much mostly Borough. I mean, Blackburn had a few chances, but definitely Middlesbrough had the better chances, and it was a great defensive display from Blackburn. The goalkeeper played really well, like I said, and I think versus a really tough Middlesbrough team, that were second in the league before him, it's a really great result, and I definitely would have took it before the game. And all the results went our way this week as well. So Blackburn have extended their lead over 7th, and we're still in 6th, but now we're 2 points clear to 7th.
All right, so closing it out, let's do the SirBob ManCity Corner. Now, I know we were going to talk a little bit about Manchester City, or at least the citizen Sergio Aguero and the heroics that he's had. But also, gentlemen, I do have the final table and the results from the Clone World Cup. So, Ben, why don't you guys give us the what happened with Sergio this week, and then I'll close it out with the Clone World Cup.
I haven't actually got the results. What did you say?
No. If you guys would cover the what Sergio Aguero did this week.
Oh,
I know we wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Want me to say it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Sergio Aguero ended up scoring a hat-trick against Bayern Munich. After a comeback, losing 2-1, courtesy of goals from Bayern Munich. Obviously, Manchester City had the lead, courtesy of a penalty from Sergio Aguero, but in the last, I believe it was 8 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, Sergio Aguero just scored 2 goals. Plus Manuel Neuer to win the match 3-2 at the Etihad. And the match against Southampton on Sunday, he provided 2 assists to Yaya Toure and Galkishi to win it 3-0 at St. Mary's.
He's been on fire as of late.
Yeah, great.
And the talk is when do you start putting Sergio Aguero in the talk of the top 5 players in the world right now? I mean, is he there yet? What do you guys think?
I think, as far as strikers go, I mean, for me, he just looks so composed. Like, the goal for me, the third goal for me, where he just takes it down, and there's 3 defenders around him, but he's not worried about anything that's going on around him. He's not worried about anything that the goalkeeper's doing. He just glances at the goalkeeper, knows what's going to happen. And Manuel Neuer is one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and you can see the goalkeeper spread and the defender spread, and the goalkeeper stands up, and it's standard for anyone that's played at the back or anyone that's played in goal, and they do everything they can to put him off, but he's so composed and just slots the ball home, doesn't try to do too much, doesn't power it, doesn't go too far wide, just puts it low and hard, and that's it. And that for me, it just shows how confident he is at the moment. He knows that he's a great finisher of the ball. He's got the speed to do it, and he's got the touch. And the thing is, like we all know, football's definitely a confidence game, no matter what position you play in. Especially when you're a striker, when you're scoring goals and you're making goals, you feel like you're super, and at the moment he's looking like he's super. I don't think anyone can argue at the moment that he is the best striker in the Premier League. He's playing like the best striker in the Premier League, and like I said earlier, and I firmly believe, if Man City have got any chance to take this title from I don't want to say from Chelsea, but how it's looking at the moment, if they're going to knock Chelsea off a top spot, then I definitely think that Sergio Aguero is going to be a big part of that.
I agree. So that leads us to the last topic of the night in the SirBob ManCity Corner, and that is the Clone World Cup. As you guys remember last week, you guys don't even know the results yet.
I do not.
Cool.
No, we don't.
I'm the only one that has them right now. Well, myself and SirBob. But as you guys recall, last Wednesday, it was the Wednesday before last, on the Express Extra on beIN Sport, Jeremy St. Louis name-dropped us at the end of a segment talking about if you could clone 11 of the same player and have them play against each other. So basically, who was the best all-around player in the world? And the names that they had put on the list were Sergio Ramos, they put Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and they put Manuel Neuer on the list. And then we basically took it upon ourselves to come up with 5 more names and play a round-robin style a la World Cup where each player played each player once, and then we would run it down to a complete winner. So, gentlemen, the funny part of this, the results of this experiment are the 3 players that came up that were given by beIN Sport finished 8th, 7th, and 6th, respectively. Manuel Neuer finished 8th, Zlatan finished 7th, and Sergio Ramos finished 6th. Neuer did not score a goal, and he only gave up 4 goals. So his results were he lost to Philipp Lahm 2-0. He lost to... he had 1 draw. Lost to Philipp Lahm 2-0. He lost to Bastian Schweinsteiger 2-0. And he drew Sergio Ramos 0-0. And in the 8th place match, he lost to Team Zlatan 2-1. So actually, Manuel Neuer scored a goal against the great Zlatan Ibrahimovic in this one. So our tables were in Group A was Lionel Messi, Yaya Toure, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And Group B was Bastian Schweinsteiger, Philipp Lahm, Sergio Ramos, and Manuel Neuer. One of the more exciting matches from the tournament, Team Lionel Messi, and this should end all Ballon d'Or discussions forever now. Team Lionel Messi beat Team Cristiano Ronaldo 6-1, gentlemen.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
A goal by the Messi left center back, 2 goals by the Messi right forward, and 3 goals by the Messi left center mid. So there you go.
No striker?
Nope, no striker. And I don't know who man of the, who won the Ballon d'Or and who, the goal, top goalie and top all that stuff. But so in the groups, we had Lionel Messi first, Yaya Toure second, Cristiano Ronaldo third, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic fourth. In Group B, we had Bastian Schweinsteiger winning the group, Philipp Lahm second, Sergio Ramos third, and Manuel Neuer fourth. In the 7th, 8th place match, we had Zlatan beating Neuer 2-1. In the 5th/6th place match, we had a battle of 2 Real Madrid players, Team Cristiano Ronaldo beating Team Sergio Ramos 3-2. In the first semifinal, we had Lionel Messi beating Philipp Lahm 3-1. And in the other semifinal, we had Yaya Toure beating Bastian Schweinsteiger 3-1. In the 3rd place match, we had Bastian Schweinsteiger beating Philipp Lahm 2-1. And in the final, gentlemen, to determine who is the greatest all-around footballer out there today, in a matchup of 2 titans between Lionel Messi and Manchester City's own Yaya Toure, gentlemen, who won the match? Let me ask you guys. Who do you think won?
Yaya Toure.
I'm going to say Messi.
Ben would be correct. Lionel Messi beats Yaya Toure 4-3 in a very close match. 2 goals by the left forward, a goal by the left center mid, and a goal by the right midfielder. So that and what we're seeing here is something about Messi that Sir Bob's putting in there. I don't know if that is that is Juninho saying that it was Messi was the winner. So, gentlemen, the results of
there.
Yeah, Juninho said Juninho's golden volley said Messi was the winner. So, so there's the results of our Clone World Cup, guys. What do you think? Do you think it went out the way you thought it would, or do you think it's rigged and we should probably do it again?
I think it's surprising. Yeah, I kind of thought that Team Ronaldo would do better than that. But at the same time, it's interesting. It just shows you, I guess, that Messi's a better all-round player. I think that's what you can really take from it. It's hard to take too much from it, but it's awesome. Thank you, Sir Bob, for doing that. It's another great thing done for the show, obviously. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting, and if beIN Sports want to take this information, then obviously they should definitely shout out to Sir Bob as well. But if we can get once more on the telly, then go us. But I think, like I said, you can take from this that Lionel Messi and Yaya Toure are very, very big team players, and I think if I'd have said that to you before you said any of those results, and you just said Messi and Yaya Toure are big team players, I don't think any of us would have said no to that. So.
No. I would agree. Rob, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was actually surprised that Messi would actually win the whole thing. I actually thought probably maybe Yaya Toure would actually win it all, to be fair, before I predicted. Oh, no, actually, no. I said Schweinsteiger would win it.
And I think Sir Bob said when he set up the teams, it looked like the way it laid out that Schweinsteiger and Toure would actually be the favorites to win this tournament. So, which is pretty close. I mean, Schweinsteiger lost to Toure, and Toure made the final, and Schweinsteiger made the 1/3 place. So, interesting. It was a great analysis. I'm going to put it all together. I think what I might try to do, guys, is actually effort Jeremy St. Louis or actually Terry Badu from beIN Sport and see if one of them will come on the show and talk about the results of the tournaments that we ran and see what they have to say. So. Yeah. But again, special shout out to Sir Bob for doing that, for taking care of all that for us. He put a lot of time into both of these things, and we are certainly grateful, and hence the reason he has his own segment on the show. So, gentlemen, any final thoughts before I hit the closing music?
Yeah, I'll say something.
Go for it.
The Paraguayan League will be defined next week.
Okay. Who do we have in the final? What do we have at the top of the table?
Well, basically, this is the scenario for the table. You have 3 teams battling out for basically the chance of playing in the Libertadores or the Sudamericana. The way in Paraguay it goes, there's 2 leagues, the Apertura and the Clausura. The winner of those 2 qualifies for the Copa Libertadores, and there's a final table, meaning the team that weren't champions but had the best overall results from the 2 leagues qualifies for the 3rd final spot in the Libertadores, and the other 3 after that, the 4th, 5th, and 6th place qualify for Sudamericana, along with the best placed team out of the 2 leagues in terms of how many points they had in both leagues. And basically, the scenario will go: Cerro Porteño will play Sol de America on Sunday. And let me just get this one thing. Basically, Cerro Porteño is 41 points clear, while Libertad is currently leaders with 43 points. And Guarani, 3rd place, is with 38 points. The way that it goes, if Guarani can manage to win, actually 39, 40, actually no, don't even consider Guarani anymore. Just consider them out, basically. That's going to be Libertad and Cerro Porteño. This is basically the scenario. If Cerro Porteño can get a win, Sunday, and Libertad to slip up, Cerro become champions. If Libertad win the match and Cerro still win, Libertad are champions. If there's a draw for Libertad and a win for Cerro are champions, and vice versa, Libertad would be champion. So basically, whatever goes, one team has to mostly win, and the other team does not have to win.
So we have
what?
We definitely have 2 matches that we have to keep an eye on this weekend.
Oh yeah, I'll be sure to notify you. It's obviously they're going to run there's going to be these matches that are going to be on at the same time, so that way there's no cheating in a way.
Right.
Yeah, I wanted to say the right word, but that's the only word I could think of.
Collusion.
Exactly. There we go.
So, all right, boys.
We're all neutral here.
Yeah. Let's hit the closing music. And I've got it probably turned up a little too loud here, so. And I thought I did, so. So, again, for episode 53 of Low Limit Football, special thanks to Jason Pettigrove from Bleacher Report. Special thanks to Susie Schaarf for joining us from Bayern Central. And special thanks to David Amoyal for joining us from Gianluca DiMarzio. Rob, any last words?
No, I thought we had two great guests in David and Susie. I obviously wasn't there for the Jason Pettigrove interview, but I did able to hear the entire conversation, and I thought overall all three of them were great guests.
Yeah,
they really knew about this football, and hope to have them in future shows.
Ben, final words.
Two great guests. I'd like to say thank you to Jason Pettigrove as well. Came on and we did a pre-recording on Friday, and three great guests. And the chat was great today, and we had some good questions. And thank you to SirBob for doing the corner for the best outright player as well. And it was another good show. And we look forward to speaking to you all again next week.
Yep, and thanks again in the chat to Joey Essex, Eugenio's Golden Volley, and Matt Aldridge for joining us and keeping things lively again for episode 53 of Low Limit Football. I am Joe Usello.
And I'm Ben the Machine.
And I'm Roberto Rojas.
Thanks for joining us, and good night.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.